Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if neglected Naruto learns about his family bloodline part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Tsunade spent the better part of a week rifling through the filing cabinets in her new office, trying to make sense of the ancient filing system before deciding to simply give everything a once-over and tossing it in a pile with similar things. She had just taken on the mantle of the Godame Hokage about a week prior, and regretted every second of it. All paperwork, everything that had to do with being Hokage, included a stamp, a signature, or 5 minutes of filling out. Honestly, she was starting to wonder what Nawaki, Dan, and Naruto ever saw in the job. Oh yeah, I'm the boss, Tsunade thought, chuckling to herself. Shizen. Why yes, Tsunade-sama? Shizen asked, walking into the office with a slightly fearful look adorning her features. Whenever Tsunade downright bellowed her name, it never ended well. Get over here and help me through these, damn it! Tsunade called, indicating the scrolls and books still sitting on the shelves around the room, and motioning towards the piles in front of her. Shizen wondered why her master was sitting on the floor, and more so why she hadn't had Chunin administrators go through all of it instead, but she merely sighed before walking over to help her mentor. Now, let's see history, ooh, blackmail material, Tsunade said, tucking a small scroll into her robes before tossing the others into a rather large pile. Shizen sighed, but couldn't help but chuckle at the older woman's antics. After sorting through a handful of scrolls and books herself, getting a handle on Tsunade's filing system, if it could indeed be called one, Shizen came across a red-bordered orange scroll with a similarly patterned letter bound to it with wire. "Ts Tsunade-sama," she muttered. "Yes, Shizen?" Tsunade asked. She didn't like the tone in her apprentice's voice. She was worried the younger woman stumbled across something she wasn't meant to. "This scroll, it's addressed to you," Shizen said, handing the mid-sized scroll to her teacher. To the Godame looking it over once, Tsunade immediately recognized the seals of both the Sandame and Yandame Hokage on the letter, and as her apprentice had said, it was addressed to the Godame, in an oddly generalized sense. She quickly sat herself back at her desk and undid the cord binding the letter to the scroll. Tsunade only stared at the letter for an instant before slashing the top of it open with a kunai, obviously forgetting there was a letter opener on the desk. Tsunade swiftly pulled the papers out from the large letter envelope, and unfolded the letters inside. Seeing 2 other papers slip out of the now unfolded letters and onto her desk, Tsunade decided to ignore these for a moment and concentrate on the first letter, which was in her sensei's handwriting. "To my successor. You are obviously wondering why you are receiving this. Rest assured that this document was sealed over a decade ago, thus holding no bias or comment directed toward you in any way. This was done on behalf of my former successor, Yandame Hokage. Enclosed is a letter from him better detailing the situation regarding the scroll these documents were attached to, as well as explaining the documents I sealed inside the envelope along with the letters. All I need say is that if all went according to plan, you are receiving these documents at least 15 years after the hero they regard was born. I have sworn to look after him as my own, but should I pass away before he is of age, I would request you do the same in my stead. I am an old man, after all, and my finite time in this world has nearly run its course. It is my deepest wish that all who suffered in this tragedy find happiness, especially young Naruto. I have given him the surname Uzumaki to hide his identity from those who would do him harm, but I fear I can do little more than that, aside from passing a law forbidding anyone else from learning what is sealed within him. Please ask Naruto to forgive an old man his folly in my stead." Tsunade's eyes were in tears before she'd finished the letter. What shocked her more than anything else in the letter, however, was the fact that it was both hand-signed and stamped with her sensei's personal hanko. As far as she knew, no document in existence, save something rivaling the importance of a declaration of war, required both, showing just how important this letter was to the old man. If this is right, then I opened this a good 3 years early, Tsunade thought, before something else dawned on her. Shizen? Yes? When was the Sandame's law, the one regarding Naruto, founded? Tsunade asked, throwing her apprentice through a loop, continuing before the younger woman could speak up. And I mean exactly when it was laid down. About a week after the Kyuubi's attack, I think, Shizen answered. Then that would mean this was written and sealed less than a week after Naruto was born. At her apprentice's curious look regarding her statement, Tsunade passed the first letter to her as she started on the second, which was obviously written hastily, if not haphazardly. To Sandame Oyaji and Godame Hokage. First off, old man, I'm sorry to say that I ran out of options and had to stick you with my job again. You're probably cursing my name right now for stranding you with my mountain of paperwork, but I'd also like you to take care of my son, Naruto. I mean, so long as it's not too much trouble, just watch over him when you can, and keep him safe. Our little hero is destined for great things, but only if the villagers manage to see him for the hero he is. I know that as long as he has you and his mother, he'll turn out just fine. I want you to give him the family scroll when he's old enough for it. In other words, whenever you pick the next Hokage in a decade or two, just shirk it off on them. I'm sure my son will understand. To go Dame-sama, I am sure you're quite confused by now, so I'm going to explain a few things. Naruto, whom you may or may not know as the demon child, is my biological son. Unless some horrendous twist of fate intervenes, my wife should be able to keep our son safe, and teach him enough to survive in this harsh world. Along with this, you should find my son's birth records, and the deed to our estate. If there isn't a copy of our clan scroll along with this, then there should be a copy in my old home. All of your questions should be answered in the scroll. Don't worry about Naruto, give him the scroll, and he'll figure everything out from there. He is my son, after all. Once more, Tsunade saw that the letter in her hand was both signed and stamped by its writer. She sighed before handing the letter off to Shizen and opening up the first of the two documents that had fallen onto her desk. Heck, Kazama Naruto, who would have figured? Tsunade thought. I only wish his mother had survived to care for him. It would have made all of this a lot less complicated. Tossing the birth certificate onto her desk and taking a single glance at the deed to the Kazama estate, she swiftly turned her attention to the scroll on her desk. It was rather small for a clan scroll, but she assumed it didn't have much of the clan history or jutsu, so that was understandable. Unrolling it, her eyes slowly widened as she read more and more of the apparently ancient document. Call Naruto in here, Tsunade muttered, catching her assistant's attention before simply exploding. Now! As she watched her assistant scurry away, Tsunade couldn't help but think her day was simply shot to hell already, and started looking around for a bottle of sake. Shizen returned about a half hour later, dragging an infuriated Naruto along with her. Hey! What do you think you're doing? I wasn't done with my RA. Naruto, Tsunade said sternly. Her voice held no quarter, and Naruto silenced instantly, visibly gulping as he waited for whatever punishment was sure to come for what he had no idea. How would you like to know about your family? Naruto's eyes shot open. What? Seriously? Naruto yelled, and at Tsunade's nod, continued. Of course I want to know. Tsunade glanced at Shizen, who understood instantly, and shut the door. First, the reason there aren't any Uzumaki in Konoha is because there is no Uzumaki clan. Your name is Kazama Naruto, the son of the Yondaime, and apparently Tsunade stopped for a moment, opening the scroll so that Naruto could see its contents. You've got to be shitting me, Naruto muttered as he looked it over. Nope, the Sannin muttered. I'd suggest you find someone to help you figure out how to deal with this, and seeing as the council will want to talk to you about it, I'll set up a meeting in, say, a week or two. Naruto was dumbfounded, but he knew that didn't matter. Naruto, I'd suggest talking to the Hyuga clan. You're friends with Hinata and Neji, right? Naruto nodded, honestly confused. Well then, I bet they can help you out with this, and I can order Shikamaru to teach you how to talk in front of the council, she said, pointing to a spot on the scroll before smiling maliciously. Okay, I'll talk to Neji and Hinata tomorrow morning, Naruto muttered, rolling up the scroll to take it with him. I'll make sure either of them have a mission tomorrow, Tsunade said, smiling. As Naruto walked out of the Hokage's office, clan scroll tucked safely under his arm, he started thinking to himself, man, this is weird. First Sasuke starts acting strange, and now this Naruto hadn't realized it, but he was already at his apartment. Shinzenbigen, huh? Sounds kinda cool, he muttered. Naruto was up at dawn, as he usually was, but today was different. Today was special. Today he was going to go to the Hyuga compound and ask his two Hyuga friends for Jujutsu training. He was standing in front of the main gates to the Hyuga compound at 6 in the morning, when one of the guards took note of him. What business do you have here, boy? He asked. Naruto winced slightly at the tone in the Hyuga man's voice. I'm here to see Neji or Hinata. The man was instantly glaring at him, opening his mouth to berate Naruto before the blonde cut him off. The Hokage told me to see the Hyuga for Jujutsu training, and they're the only two I know. Why you have a Jujutsu? The guard yelled. Naruto sighed, not even realizing the effect his next words might have. Okay, then I guess I'll just have to go talk to Kakashi-sensei or Sasuke about it then. The Uchiha? The guard scoffed, and grumbled before opening the gate. Follow me, you will meet with Neji-sama. As Naruto stepped through the archway, he jogged up beside the man and asked, Why can't I see Hinata? Because you are different, and it is unsafe for her to be near you, the man said, never looking at the boy. Damned fox, Naruto muttered, catching the guard's attention. Naruto could have sworn he saw fear in the man's pale lavender eyes for an instant. But Tsunade told me she was holding both of their teams back from missions so I could get this training. It's practically in order, I think. The man stopped walking, cursing under his breath. When Naruto noticed he was walking alone, he turned back to find the branch member stock still saved for his twitching eye. Naruto was about to ask if he was alright when the man spoke up. I will take you to the courtyard where Niji-sama should be and then I will summon Hinata-sama for you, he said through gritted teeth. Okay, Naruto muttered, watching as the now furious Hyuga led him down the hallways. Eventually they came upon a door leading outside, and Naruto watched as the guard slid the door open, revealing a familiar face. Niji! And Naruto? Niji muttered, obviously surprised to see the blonde boy. Yup! Naruto yelled, running over to him as the guard retreated back into the hallway. I'm sorry if I came at a bad time, but I kinda need help with something. Niji sighed. I don't know what I could possibly help you with, Naruto. Well, there's taijutsu, genjutsu. I think I might be a little better than you with ninjutsu, Naruto said, stroking his chin in thought. I'm sure you could teach me a thing or two about fancy manners and girls. Too. Niji paled slightly, and this did not go unnoticed by the blonde. What's wrong? Girlfriend trouble? Niji shook his head vigorously. Naruto could tell the Hyuga boy was quite flustered for some reason, and was intent on finding out if he could help in any way. Naruto's face lit up in a mixture of confusion and realization for an instant before he cleared his throat. Wait, boyfriend trouble? Naruto muttered. Niji's face turned into a visage of horror and disgust when he heard his friend's implication. RHH. No! Niji screeched. Naruto had sometimes wondered if having your voice break during puberty was a rumor, but hearing it happen firsthand convinced him otherwise. I'm in an arranged marriage. Niji continued after he'd taken a moment to calm himself. So, I don't know how I could be of help with girls. I've never been out on a date before, and I doubt I ever will. That makes sense. So, who's the lucky girl? Naruto asked. Well, I am betrothed to my cousin. Hinata! Naruto yelled, causing the older boy to jump slightly. Wait, what? No! Niji yelled. She's my mother's stepsister's daughter. Oh, Naruto said, letting out a sigh. Well, why don't you tell me about her? Well, she reminds me of Hanabi-sama, which is oddly frightening, Niji said. Naruto could barely make out the fact that the older boy was shuddering. She just turned 12 last month and I was informed of the arrangement then. We are to wed when she has reached the marriageable age of 15. 15? Naruto asked, openly gaping. Isn't that a little young? There are several cases that would permit marriage at a much younger age, but most Hyuga are married around their mid-teens. Niji explained. Well, yeah, Naruto muttered, clearing his throat again. That's really interesting. Naruto, I must ask you, why have you come here today? I need to leave for my team's mission briefing in just under an hour, Niji said, earning a smile from Naruto as the door to the hallway slid open, unnoticed by either of the boys. Oh no, you don't! Naruto yelled merrily. I talked to Oba-chan yesterday, and she said she was canceling missions for you and Hinata so you could help me with my Dijitsu. Niji's eyes shot open wider than they ever had before. Dijitsu? And Naruto-kun? Hinata asked from the doorway. Hinata! Naruto shouted cheerfully. Is it true, and Naruto-kun? Why you have a Dijitsu? Hinata asked, a flurry of emotion streaking across her form. Naruto could tell, even with his limited understanding of body language and facial cues, that Hinata was uncomfortable. Sure, he saw a hint of excitement and happiness for him, but that was easily dwarfed by curiosity, anxiety, and if he wasn't mistaken, fear. Why would Hinata be afraid? I'm not scary, and she doesn't know about the QB. Hinata, are you okay? Naruto asked softly, walking up to her, and placing his hands on her shoulders in what he hoped was a comforting gesture. Naruto has a Dijitsu, Hinata thought after she heard it from him herself. He doesn't have the Byakugan or the Sharingan, so what could it be? It's obviously rare, meaning he'll wind up married off to some horde just to breed his bloodline. I'll never make Naruto-kun love me now. Her mind raced, until Naruto walked over and placed his hands on her shoulders. Oh Kami, he's touching me. He cares about me. I can still make him love me if I just tell him now. And then Naruto-kun, she started, trying with all her might to embrace him, to meet his lips with hers, but all she did was shudder in his grasp, moving maybe half an inch towards him. Hello. The pair were broken from their thoughts as Niji cleared his throat. Well, what is this Dijitsu? Naruto smiled once more before answering with a single word, Shinzenbigen. Shinzenbigen? Niji confirmed. That sounds familiar. Probably its similarity to the word Sharingan. It's probably nothing. Yup. Naruto cheered, holding up his family scroll, and tossing it to Niji. I already looked through it last night. I could hardly sleep. Niji walked up, and took the scroll with a slight bow, setting it on the large stone patio surrounding the courtyard's fountain centerpiece. Within the first few words regarding the Kekkai Genkai, Niji had to actively restrain himself from activating his Byakugan in an attempt to read the scroll's entirety instantly. This is impossible. And Niji Nizan? Hinata asked, walking up behind him when her cousin flagged her over. Naruto arrived behind her just after she'd clamped her hands over her own mouth. What are you two, yeah? Naruto muttered. These Niji started, double-checking the name. Kazama must have indeed been a clan most formidable and ancient. Hinata gasped again, this time because Naruto wrapped his arm around her shoulders. What, you're put off by the fact that we probably have the same great-great-great-great Naruto started, counting on his fingers as he continued. Great-great-great-great-grandfather? I will want to look at your clan's historical documents, Niji muttered. There is a C copy of the KK Kazama clan archives here alongside our own, Hinata said softly. That makes sense, I mean, our history is your history, any? Naruto asked, rubbing the back of his neck curiously. I thought Shinzenbigen sounded familiar, Niji muttered. I'll read through those archives later. For now, let's work on activating your Dijitsu. All right. Naruto yelled, running around the fountain several times, jumping occasionally. Niji could tell Hinata was giggling at the sight of it, but he didn't say anything. Naruto! Niji snapped. I will help you on one condition, and Naruto's nod, the older boy continued, shut up. Naruto was about to go off on a tangent, but the look on Hinata's face stayed his temper. All right, I'll quiet down a little, happy? Very. Niji muttered. Now your Shinzenbigen is much like the Sharingan, and that is it's segmented into levels, whereas the Byakugan has a single form. Okay, so then how do I get it to work? Naruto asked, crossing his arms over his chest. Focus chakra into your eyes, and fight someone. Niji said, his eyes never leaving the scroll. It activates in life-threatening situations, but it is very difficult to do so. Channeling the chakra into your eyes should make it far easier to do so. Even heavy training might work for it then. All right then, Naruto said, bringing his hands up in a ram's seal. After a few moments of silence, Naruto couldn't stand it any longer. Why isn't anything happening? He grunted. Niji sighed before snapping his fingers. A young woman from the branch family, obviously acting as a maid, emerged from the door. Niji stood and bowed to her before making his request. I am researching the Kazama bloodline on behalf of Hinata-sama. I would like for you to bring me any materials on their family history or their Dijitsu that may be in our archives, please. The woman nodded and left, leaving Niji to turn back to Naruto's scroll. Wait, I think something's happening, Naruto said, noting the tingling sensation in his eyes. And Naruto-kun! Hinata yelled, as she watched his azure blue eyes slowly shift to a deep emerald green. What? Something happen? Naruto asked. Hold that chakra there, and spar with Hinata, Niji suggested. I will continue researching these documents. Fight with Naruto-kun. I couldn't. Hinata objected, turning towards the blonde boy she loved. It's okay, Hinata, it's just a friendly spar, the aforementioned blonde said, dropping into a rough taijutsu stance. I guess, Hinata muttered, taking her own stance. Several hours later, Naruto and Hinata were both breathing heavily. Both had shed their respective jackets, revealing that Naruto was wearing a black t-shirt, while Hinata wore a lavender tank top. It got rather hot, constantly wearing a jacket. It didn't seem weird at all that she wore something like that under it. Both were sweating rather profusely, easily visible even on Naruto's black shirt, and especially visible on Hinata's clothing. Naruto was leaning up against the fountain while Hinata was lying in the grass as the door slid open again. Hinata-ne-san? The younger of the two sisters asked, quite confused by what she was seeing. Hinata was on the ground, panting, while Niji sat waist-deep in scrolls, reading constantly. What caught her eye, though, was the green-eyed blonde in front of her. Who are you, the one who beat Niji in the Chunin exam, right? Yeah, as a matter of fact, and you're Hinata's younger sister, right? Naruto asked. Yes. My name is Hanabi, she answered, nodding her head in place of a bow. Naruto, however, failed to understand how disrespectful that was, and kept going with the conversation. Really? I love fireworks, Naruto proclaimed, causing the young girl to match the blush her older sister always had around the blonde. Well, thank you, Hanabi said, practically choking on the words. No one had ever said anything like that about her name before. Hey, you wanna spar? Naruto asked, catching Hanabi completely off guard with the question. Niji and Hinata are helping me figure out my Dijitsu, but Hinata seems a little worn out. I sure, the girl muttered, dropping into a basic jukin stance, blankly staring into the boy's beautiful green eyes, so focused in fact, that he managed to catch her with a sweeping kick before she even realized he'd moved. "You're the Hyuga prodigy? I'd never be able to catch Hinata or Niji with that," Naruto muttered offhandedly. "You'll pay for that, pretty eyes or no," Hanabi proclaimed, causing all eyes to fall on her. Even Niji looked up from his reading. "I didn't say anything." "I didn't know Hanabi-sama liked green eyes," Niji muttered under his breath as he went back to his research. Today was just one surprise after another. Naruto managed to leave both sisters exhausted from training at a little after noon, and decided to ask Niji about training with his team tomorrow, which he accepted. Hanabi was probably going to be busy with her own training while Hinata had missions to do anyway. Naruto was sitting on his stool at Ichiraku's, lazily slurping away at his noodles, occasionally fingering the cloth strap holding his clan scroll to his back. Around his fifth bowl, a familiar boy sat down next to him. "Shikamaru?" Naruto asked. "I've been looking all over for you, Naruto. You know, this was the first place I looked, but you weren't here," the Nara boy stated lazily. "Well, what's up?" "Hokage-sama asked me to teach you the finer points of a political debate, something about having you ready for a council meeting," Shikamaru answered. "It's just too damn troublesome if you asked me." "Okay, well, let's get going," then Naruto said, tossing a small handful of coins next to his stack of bowls before hopping off the stool. Are you sure?" Naruto asked as he and Shikamaru went over the Kazama scroll again. They were sitting out back in the Nara district, with the sun shining down on them, and a clear view of the sky, should either of them decide to do any impromptu cloud watching. "You want to rebuild your clan, don't you?" Shikamaru asked. "This is the best way to do it, no matter how troublesome it is." "Yeah, I suppose you're right," Naruto muttered, rolling up the scroll and slinging it over his back. "I'll see you tomorrow then." "Yes," Shikamaru muttered back. Naruto decided to head back to his apartment and turn in early. Teen Guy started training a lot earlier than most people. Naruto made it to the aforementioned training ground exactly where Niji said to at 5 in the morning. There he saw two green-clad blurs colliding with each other repetitively, while a young girl just older than him watched, thermos and cup filled with what Naruto assumed to be coffee in hand. "Hey, Tenten?" Naruto asked. "Huh? Oh, Naruto," Tenten muttered. "Niji said you'd be coming by. I didn't think he'd make you come this early though." "Yeah, well, I want to get my Dijutsu figured out already," Naruto replied, rubbing the back of his neck. This piqued the girl's interest. "Oh? I heard something like that from Niji, but he disappeared on me before I could ask him any details." "Yeah, it's called the Shinzenbigen. It's supposed to be what the Byakugan evolved from," Naruto answered. Tenten's mouth dropped open. "Are you serious?" she asked, now rising from her seat on one of the rocks and looking him dead in the eye. "Can you get it to work yet?" "No, that's what this training is for, to try and get it to activate," Naruto stated. Seeing the girl's attitude take a nosedive, he quickly thought of something. "But I can get it to do something." Tenten watched as Naruto made a ram seal, and shifted his eyes from blue to green. "Amazing," Tenten muttered. "They're beautiful." "Such a youthful shade," they heard erupt from right behind Tenten. "Yosh, Lee! Naruto-kun burns brightly with the flames of youth," Guy yelled from the side of his doppelganger. Naruto started, putting his hands up in a placating gesture. "No need to excite yourselves over little Omi. Guy-sensei, I suggest Naruto-san and Lee-san spar," Niji said, walking up from behind a nearby tree. "Yosh!" the green-clad men yelled as one. "Ah damn," Naruto muttered as a foot collided with his face, sending him sprawling 20 feet back. "Lee!" Tenten screeched. "What was that for?" "Tenten. We must test Naruto-kun's flames of youth against our own," was his answer. "I'll let you handle that," Tenten muttered, shaking her head and retaking her seat on her rock. "And I shall referee," Guy proclaimed. Niji backed himself up until he was leaning against the rock Tenten was sitting on. "You know, I wouldn't be surprised if you were interested in Naruto-san," he said. The young weapons mistress nearly fell off her rock, her face flushed deep crimson in embarrassment and rage. Mostly rage. "What the hell are you talking about?" she roared. "His Kekkei Genkai," Niji answered. "Do you want to know what the Kazama were known for above everything else?" What?" Tenten asked, her rage ebbing away while her embarrassment stayed strong. "Their flawless accuracy with projectile weapons," Tenten openly gaped at what he said. "You mean their Dijutsu?" Tenten started, staring at the blonde who had finally gotten the hang of light sparring with Lee. It enhances their vision and hand-eye coordination to the point where they can see anything within their line of sight and strike it with any projectile weapon, Niji stated. It also makes the user nearly impervious to all genjutsu, and coupled with his hijitsu, I have little doubt Naruto-san could assassinate nearly anyone in the village, regardless of rank. You can't be serious, Tenten muttered, just in time to hear a sickening crack as Lee's foot smashed into Naruto's jaw, sending him flying up 5 feet off the ground and soaring away from the green-clad boy, already at least 10 feet away by the time Tenten could look up to see what had happened. She honestly never once thought the blonde-haired boy could be so lithe, flipping himself in midair like a cat, landing 20 feet away from Lee with his back to his opponent. He then took 3 kunai and threw them at the taijutsu prodigy as he turned to face him. Lee was caught off guard by this. True, they never forbade thrown weapons, but Lee assumed it was a match of pure taijutsu. And thus was he struck by the 3 missiles. Lee! Guy yelled as he watched his student stumble backwards and fall to the ground. Lee? Tenten asked, nearly yelling as she jumped down off the rock, before slowing to a stop and looking at the other boy. Naruto? She walked over to the blonde and stared him straight in the eyes. To say that Naruto was uncomfortable would be a monumental understatement. Especially when she reached out with her right hand and began to caress his cheek, sliding her thumb along his whisker marks as she continued to gaze into his soul. I got something on my face? Naruto asked, now sweating bullets. Amazing, she said finally, placing her left hand on his other cheek, now firmly holding his face as she slowly inched them closer. Your eyes changed again, they're beautiful, Naruto. Niji cleared his throat beside them, causing the girl to nearly jump out of her skin. If you two are done with the romantic drivel, we need to take Lee-san to the hospital to assess the extent of his paralysis. Paralysis? Tenten yelled. Yes. Naruto-san struck 3 major nerve pockets with his kunai, rendering Lee-san immobile. Niji stated stoically. There was a squelch sound as Guy tore one of the kunai from his student's chest. Ji-sensei, I still cannot move, Lee yelled. I see at least one good thing came of this, Niji said, taking a small mirror out of his sleeve. You have obtained the first form of your Jujutsu. Naruto looked into the mirror expectantly, to see his eyes match the golden yellow of his hair. Hell yeah! Naruto yelled, jumping into the air, eliciting a giggle from Tenten. The next 2 days went by smoothly enough. Lee was only temporarily paralyzed, and Shizen had him fixed up in under 20 minutes. Every morning, he would train with Team Guy to try and master his Jujutsu, and the hijitsu that came with them. He only ever managed to do one, but that one was enough. Just like Niji said, Naruto's eyes may be weaker than his, but they had techniques that augmented their use tenfold. Naruto's afternoons were spent in the Nara district, learning the finer points of law and etiquette with Shikamaru. The tutoring went extremely well after Shikamaru told Naruto it was little more than tactics with words, after which Naruto, using this analogy as a basis for his studies, took to it with gusto. It was noon the next day, while Naruto was heading from Ichiraku's towards the Nara district like he did every day, that he was ambushed by Team 7, all of whom were extremely irked, save for the ever-stoic Kakashi. Naruto! Sakura screeched. What? Naruto asked, turning back to see what sort of banshee could make such a racket, only to be greeted by his team. Oh, hey Sakura-chan, how have you been? Lousy, she said, stomping her foot down where Naruto's sandal used to be until a split second earlier. If she wasn't so angry, she might have noticed the fact that Naruto would never have pulled his foot back in time 3 days ago. Well, why is it my fault? Tsunade pretty much ordered me to take some special training. I mean, she ordered other people to give me the training, after all, Naruto said, trying to placate the rampaging girl. You see? I told you he had authorization from Hokage-sama, Kakashi lazily rebuked. I'll admit, I don't even know what this training is, but it must be important. Naruto shrugged. I'm just training my Jujutsu. Everything froze in that moment. Sakura gaped in a mix of horror and confusion, Sasuke tensed as his rage towards the blonde was fueled by envy, and Kakashi stood there like an idiot. His visible eye twitched, and the grip he held over his precious book loosened as he lost focus on reality. Naruto was simply standing there, waiting for a reply, giving the Jounin ample time to think things through. It can't be the Byakugan, or the Sharingan. I've never heard of a blue-eyed Jujutsu other than he can't be a Kazama, can he? It makes sense Uzumaki could easily be a false name, after all. But there were only so many left, and none of them had children except the resemblance is uncanny. How could I never have noticed before? The perverted novel, which had been slipping from his grasp ever so slowly since he lost his focus, finally fell from his hand as he concluded his thoughts. Naruto is Arashi-sensei's son. Naruto was the only one to see the book fall, and a look of confusion washed over him. Kakashi-sensei? He muttered. Then the book struck the ground, drawing the attention of all three genin to their sensei. Kakashi only knew 2 words that could express his feelings in that moment. Holy fuck, none of them had ever heard their sensei swear so openly before, let alone so stoically. The Cyclopean shinobi took 3 steps forward, until he was standing right in front of Naruto, about 2 feet from him. Naruto, Kakashi muttered, a serious undertone to his voice. What is your name? The blonde and silver-haired shinobi stared each other down for a few seconds before Sakura cut in. What do you mean, sensei? It's Naruto, the same old Yuzuma. She was stopped by a firm hand on her shoulder, and a pair of black eyes glaring into hers. Sasuke knew why his sensei had asked the question, and he wanted to know the answer as well. My name, Naruto muttered. He still wasn't used to calling himself this. Is Kazama Naruto. Sakura and Sasuke were both equally confused when Kakashi knelt down in front of Naruto, placing his hand on the boy's shoulder. And your father? Naruto lowered his head for a moment before answering. Kazama Erasure. Sensei? Sakura asked, seeing tears trickle down and soak into his mask. I'll be fine, Kakashi answered, wiping his eye with his forearm and taking a deep breath. Okay, you two, run along, he said, making a shooing motion with his hands towards Sakura and Sasuke as he walked over to retrieve his book from where it fell. You can't do this, Sasuke yelled. I need training. Then spar with Sakura, Kakashi sighed. I have private matters to discuss with Naruto. We'll train tomorrow, okay? As the two started back along the street in the direction Naruto had been traveling previously, Sasuke turned around to see an excruciatingly cheerful Sakura blocking his path. So, where to now, Sasuke QHWAG? She managed to get out before Sasuke shoved her aside, essentially throwing her to the ground. Leave me alone, Sasuke muttered as he walked away. Kazama Erasure, your father, was my Jounin sensei, Kakashi stated as they walked along. Well, that's actually kinda cool, Naruto muttered back. I could tell you about him if you'd like, over a bowl of ramen, maybe? Kakashi asked, his smile easily visible through his mask. Maybe tomorrow, sensei. I've got some training to do with Shikamaru now, Naruto said, now walking a few steps ahead of the older shinobi. Ah yes, Kakashi sighed. You know, like the Nara, the Kazama were shadow users. Yeah, I know whose combined skills could destroy an army. I've heard the stories too, you know, Naruto cut in. Ah yes, you've gotten a hold of your clan's historical scrolls, right? Kakashi asked. Well, Hinata and Niji found them, and Niji's been going through them, relaying all the more interesting things to me during our morning training. Including the fact that your great-granduncle was a Nara? Kakashi asked, a curious mirth to his tone. Naruto sighed. Listen, Kakashi-sensei, I need to go and get done with my training, okay? I'll talk to you later, Naruto said, jumping away. Maybe I should talk with him or Sasuke about my Shinzenbigen. After the day's lesson at the Naros, which surprisingly consisted mainly of marriage laws, Naruto set out to find an Uchiha. Or rather, any non-genocidal shinobi with an Uchiha eye. It was dusk by the time Naruto gave up on trying to find Kakashi. Chances were that the pervert had locked himself away with his books somewhere that just left Sasuke. The young Uchiha was easy enough to find. The boy practically radiated angst, after all. He was walking down the badly lit streets in the dark, not all that suspicious, given who he was. Then again, Naruto was more curious about why Sakura was stalking him. Deciding to follow until he knew just what was going on, Naruto slunk into the shadows, activating his Shinzenbigen to see from that distance. Sasuke-kun, she called, once he'd nearly reached the gates. Sasuke turned to glare at her. Only one jet black visible eye was enough to make her flinch. Go home, he ordered. No, Sakura yelled, inching forward. Why can't you stay with me? With us? Sasuke merely turned back onto the path and took another step. Why can't you get your revenge here? Sasuke stopped and spun around. Because of people like you and Kakashi, holding me back, and that damned Naruto, Sasuke said, rage permeating his voice before he continued under his breath. How dare he pass me up? What? What about Naruto? What about me? Sakura asked, tears streaking down her cheeks. I love you, Sasuke-kun. I would do anything for you, she yelled. Naruto isn't even worth talking about. He's passed us up, Sasuke yelled. He's been training under a Sannin. He's been the favorite of not one, but 2 Hokages. He seems to have nearly infinite chakra, and he now has a Dijitsu. I don't care about Naruto, Sakura yelled. He'll never be as good as you, Sasuke-kun. Naruto winced when he heard that. Sakura really never liked him at all. Whatever happened now, Naruto was just going to let it happen. Sakura deserved whatever she got for being stupid enough to love Sasuke instead of him. I already told you, Sasuke said, turning away once more. He passed us up. I need power, and I need it now. As Sasuke-kun, Sakura yelled after him. If you won't stay, then take me with you, please. Sakura, she heard from behind her as Sasuke vanished. You have never been more than a hindrance to me. She felt a sharp pain in the back of her neck, and fell unconscious, Sasuke stepping over her fallen body and going on his way. Damn it, Naruto muttered, jumping down after Sasuke left, forming a Kage Bunshin, which picked Sakura up off the street. Take her to the hospital. Then find Shizen and tell her about what happened here, the real Naruto said, and they dashed off in opposite directions. Sasuke is still faster than me, but he doesn't know he's being followed. I should be able to catch up soon. As the clone made it to the hospital, he plowed right through the doors, and slid to a stop in front of the main desk. Where's Shizen-nichan? The nurse behind the desk sighed. Once glance told her the girl was fine, just unconscious. What is it now, demon brat? Your little girlfriend got a sprained ankle again, and you ran her here thinking it's the end of the world? She chuckled maliciously. No, now listen the fuck up. The clone roared, driving everyone in the room to a frightened stupor. I'm just a Kage Bunshin. I need to report a missing nin that the real me went after before I pop. The woman nearly chuckled. Before I pop was an interesting way to word how a Kage Bunshin is destroyed, but nonetheless, she could hear the severity in his words. She's right down that hall, the woman muttered, pointing off to her side. The clone didn't even bother to thank the woman before he dashed off down the hall. When he caught a glimpse of the woman he was looking for, he yelled, Shizen-nichan. Sasuke went rogue and attacked Sakura. Naruto just caught up to Sasuke, who stood next to 4 people who were obviously Oto ninja, a cute red-haired girl, a freak with 6 arms, another freak with 2 heads, and a fat kid about twice the girth of Chuji. Naruto knew he couldn't take them head-on, but he couldn't sneak around and catch them off guard either. It was now that Naruto thanked Neji repeatedly for insisting he learn at least one of his clan's hijitsu before he continued training his new eyes. Sasuke team! Naruto yelled, from just behind them. Dope, even you can't possibly be this stupid, Sasuke muttered as he turned around to find yellow eyes glaring into his. TCH, so this is your dijitsu? Pathetic. Naruto began flashing through hand seals before Sasuke could activate his Sharingan. Only an Uchiha would be so arrogant as to forget that my eyes are the perfect weapons against yours. Sasuke's now red eyes narrowed. What do you mean? He muttered, only to be met with a smirk and a battle cry. Kuraikuri no Jutsu. What? Sasuke roared, snapping his head from side to side, looking for his new comrades or his enemy. Why can't I see anything? Because the Sharingan specializes in catching motion, Sasuke heard from his left. Take away all light by which to see that motion, and your Sharingan is worthless. He heard from behind him, after having turned to face the voice from before. Sasuke smirked. But motion isn't all my Sharingan can see. You are referring to the Sharingan's ability to see chakra, yes? Naruto asked, from nowhere in particular. Sasuke was getting pissed. What the fuck do you think this is made out of? I'll have you know I haven't had beans in a few months. Sasuke took out a pair of kunai, preparing to charge the next time he could tell where Naruto was via his voice. You can't possibly match my clan's eyes. Listen, genius, the Hyuga clan can barely see in here, with all the chakra. If their ability to see through chakra dwarfs your own, how the hell do you expect to see through it yourself? Naruto could see that the 4 Oto nin were playing it safe. They couldn't tell where he was either, and since Naruto seemed to only be after Sasuke, they just stood there, as if waiting for orders. I don't care, Dobe. I'll kill you. Will you now? Naruto asked, so close behind him that Sasuke could feel the blonde's breath ruffle his hair slightly. Swinging his kunai around behind him, Sasuke spun around to face his opponent, and felt a sharp pain in the back of his neck. Nighty-night, Sasuke team, Naruto muttered, picking the boy up after having knocked him out with the same method used on Sakura. When Naruto was about a half-mile away, he let the flow of chakra to the mist cease. He was at his limit for distance anyway. As the Oto nin glanced around, the red-haired girl was the first to speak up. Fuck. Another few minutes later, and Naruto kicked open the door to Tsunade's office. One Uchiha nuke nin, Naruto said, his voice an interesting mix of pride and sorrow, with just a hint of pure unbridled rage, before sliding Sasuke off his back and throwing him forward with enough force to crack the front of Tsunade's desk with his back. Courtesy of the Kazama clan. Naruto glanced over to Shizen, who was panting slightly with a concerned look in her eyes as she stood next to a practically fuming Tsunade. Shizen call Kakashi, Tsunade said, her fingers laced in front of her mouth, not bothering to break the glare she was sending at Naruto. Everything he knew about Tsunade, including his gut instinct, told him her rage wasn't focused on him, but it still unnerved him to be stared at like that. Naruto, while I agree Sasuke needs to be punished for assaulting a fellow Leaf Nin, even implying someone might be a Nuke Nin is a serious accusation. Do you have any proof? Naruto wanted to simply stand there and scream at the woman, but if there was one thing Shikamaru had drilled into his brain, it was that yelling won't solve anything nearly as well as Naruto seemed to think it did. So, instead of blowing up at her, Naruto took 3 deep breaths, one of the many calming techniques Shikamaru had taught him, and thought it over rationally. Who knew one lazy smartass could turn a blockhead like Naruto into a politician? Sasuke not only attacked Sakura, he also left the village with the intent of traveling to another hidden village. I know this not only because of the conversation I overheard between him and Sakura before he incapacitated her, but also because he was with 4 sound ninja when I caught up to him. Tsunade nearly gasped. Orochimaru? Yes, Hokage-sama, Naruto said with a slight bow, keeping as formal as he could for the sake of appearances. Before she could ask any questions, Naruto started again. I had intended to apprehend the Oto Nin as well, but I soon realized I myself could not do so without killing more than one of them, possibly Sasuke, as well as the fact that I doubted I could keep one of them from escaping before I finished off their companions. Tsunade was amazed by what she heard. Not only by what Naruto was saying, but how he was saying it. And you have a reason for not even attempting to take these 4 was it into custody, why? Naruto smirked. Like I said, there was no way I myself could bring them all back to Konoha. They appeared to be stronger than the average Oto Nin Haichunin or Jounin level, at least so Kage Bunshin, even while their eyesight was hindered by my Karaikuri, would have had little positive effect. Naruto's smile widened. Tsunade was starting to wonder what kind of political monster she'd created by sending Naruto to Shikamaru. However, we know 2 things for certain. Sasuke is very important to Orochimaru, and he has a limited number of quality shinobi. How do you know that? Tsunade asked, wondering who told Naruto about their tactical advantage over Oto. Give anyone enough liquor, and the right mix of certain compounds, and they'll tell you anything you want. Naruto chuckled. Tsunade's eyes widened slightly. You drugged Jiraiya? Who said it was Jiraiya? Naruto asked. Tsunade was more worried about the fact that he wasn't denying using certain substances on his fellow Leaf Nin anyway. Where was I? Right, with the current information, it can be deduced that Orochimaru will send at least 1 or more of those 4 to fetch dearest Uchiha team from his prison cell, he said wistfully. And you would give up the descriptions of these 4? Tsunade asked, taking out a notepad and a pencil from her desk drawer. Not everything the Hokage writes is formal, after all. Gladly, Naruto said, smiling as Tsunade noticed the evil glint in his eye. That boy was getting too damn good at this. Later on, Oto outpost near Konoha. What do you mean you lost the Uchiha? Kabuto asked, putting as much venom into his words as he could, since Orochimaru wasn't there to scold them. A blonde leaf brat came and took him. We were at a tactical disadvantage. The many-armed boy, Kidamaru, stated. What kind of tactical disadvantage? Kabuto asked. The fucker did something so we couldn't fucking see. Taiyuya, the redhead, growled. He used something a jutsu called the Kurokiri? The other odd boy, Sakan, muttered. Fucking idiot fag, he called it the Kuraikuri, Taiyuya added spitefully. Jirabu, the large boy and only one yet to speak, finally added his thoughts. What do we do now? Kabuto chuckled. Naruto-kun is an interesting one, isn't he? Confused looks derived from his mutterings made Kabuto decide to explain. The boy, did he have blonde hair, whisker marks, blue eyes and wear a horrendous orange jumpsuit? Kabuto asked, getting mixed reactions from the 4, until Taiyuya spoke again. Except for the fact that the fucker had yellow eyes, that's him. Yellow? Kabuto asked, and all 4 nodded. I see, possibly a dijitsu of some sort. It was. He said so himself, Kidamaru added. Kabuto smiled. Then we have a new mission: infiltrate Konoha, find Sasuke, and take him back to Orochimaru-sama. Kabuto began rummaging through one of the back rooms, returning with 2 large boxes. Also, if you find that boy Uzumaki Naruto, you are to do what you can to abduct him as well. One problem, fag, how the fuck do we get in? Taiyuya spat. Kabuto opened the boxes to reveal they were filled with clothing. Disguises, my dear, I have a beautiful dress that would suit you perfectly, Taiyuya-chan. Taiyuya's fist instantly appeared in Kabuto's face. No way in fucking hell am I wearing a fucking dress, she roared. Kabuto pushed his miraculously undamaged glasses up the bridge of his nose as he chuckled. Fair enough, Taiyuya-chan. Sakura stirred in her hospital bed, a slight headache nagging at her while she woke. It took her a moment to realize where she was, another to remember what had transpired the previous night, and one more to realize she wasn't alone. Naruto? The blonde glanced over at her from his seat next to the window. He'd been staring out of it until she spoke. Ah, Sakura, I see you're awake, finally. Yes, she muttered. So, care to explain what happened last night? Naruto asked, at which she shook her head. Well, I could always ask Sasuke, but I figure I gave him a worse headache than he gave you. As Sasuke-kun is still here? Sakura asked hopefully. Yup, Naruto said, mocking enthusiasm. He was about a mile outside Konoha's gates, talking to a bunch of Otonin, but after I knocked him out, he was ecstatic about coming home to you. Sakura could hear the spite in his voice through his cheerful sarcasm. How do you know? I was there, Sakura, Naruto said. For the first time, she noticed he was leaving the chan off of her name. Since before you confronted him, then I made a Kage Bunshin to take you back to the hospital and tell people what happened while I beat down your would-be bastard of a boy toy. There's no way that Sakura started. That I could beat the mighty Uchiha? Naruto asked. After waiting a moment for her to answer, he spoke again. I can't believe you still love him, Naruto muttered. I can't believe you still think he's better than me, better for you than me. But Sasuke-kun is dash. An Uchiha. Naruto spat, saying the word as if it were taboo. A vile, despicable thing neither my clan nor the Hyuga should have ever allowed to exist. Sakura flinched at his words. You can't mean that. The only Uchiha left are missing Nin, Sakura, Naruto said solemnly. No, Sasuke-kun. Left the village intent on leaving the country in the company of enemy shinobi after attacking one of our own, Naruto said. He is currently serving out his sentence of life imprisonment with possibility of parole after his chakra coils are sealed in 1 week's time. Sakura felt tears stream down her cheeks. How could? The only thing they plan to keep themselves from sealing off is his blood, so he can pass his eyes on to his children. Then again, they'll probably just artificially inseminate donor women, Naruto added, striking a thinking pose. How can you say such things? Sakura yelled. Naruto moved toward her, leaning forward, and whispering, because I want you to hurt, before leaning back in his chair again. Just like I do after hearing that no matter what I do, you'll always see him as better than me, even though I loved you longer than you loved him, even though he's never even said a single kind word to you, even though he's a criminal. Even Naruto was tearing up by then, and Sakura's tears showed no signs of ever stopping. I am far more powerful than Sasuke team, the bearer of one of, if not the oldest known Kekkai Genkai in existence, the very martyr for this village's hatred and sorrow, the boy who saved your life more times than I can remember, the student of the Sannin Jiraiya and the son of his student, Kazama Erasure, the Yondaime Hokage. Naruto said, slowly turning away from her as he spoke, trying to keep her from seeing his own rivers of tears, and doing his best not to choke on his own words. I was an idiot for ever falling in love with you. At this rate, you will live a cold and lonely life, Haruno-san, even if you don't deserve such a dismal fate. After he was finished, Naruto opened the door, walked out into the hallway, and shut it behind him, leaving the girl to cry her heart out. Did you really have to say all that? Tsunade asked from where she was leaning beside the door. Yes, was Naruto's answer. Does it make you feel good to see her cry like that? She asked, spite dripping from her words like a poison. Naruto sighed as he wiped away his tears. No, he didn't feel good about it. He hated himself for saying it, and was sad to see her cry, but there was something else Naruto could barely put a word to, something in his soul that cracked and splintered away, leaving behind a lighter, clearer focus on his life. No, I feel free, he said as he started his trek home. The next day, Naruto started out like he usually did. He woke up at 4, made breakfast, which surprisingly consisted of something other than instant ramen. After hearing Guy rant about how eating ramen every meal could actually hinder one's training, took a quick shower, checked his plants, and headed out. Training went as it usually did, save for the fact that he had to retell the entire tale of how he bested the great Uchiha while having to listen to Guy and Lee's respective rants. After he finished telling them what happened, he was unnerved by the way Tenten was eyeing him. It was something like admiration? Naruto couldn't figure it out. After training, and talking to Tenten for about a half an hour afterward, Naruto made his way to Ichiraku's. Shikamaru was never strict about when Naruto showed up. Hell, he could skip altogether, and the Nara boy would take it in stride. Not that Naruto would ever pass up training of any sort. Or at least, he thought as much. Hoi! Old man! I'm hungry! Naruto heard from his favorite stand. Eyeing the rowdy customer from behind the corner, Naruto nearly let out a gasp. It's her! he thought. That Oto Kunoichi. Diving back behind the corner, he leaned against the wall, trying to think about how to handle this. When he nearly started chuckling, it was just too perfect a prank to pass up. Hey old man, Naruto said as he took the stool right next to hers. It wasn't long before she noticed him out of the corner of her eye. It's you! She yelled, nearly stumbling back off her stool. Naruto looked up at her with a bluntly confused expression. Do I know you? He asked, laughing his ass off in his head. Well, I guess not, she said. Damn, it's hard to keep from just fucking cussing him out. Why did that bastard fag Kabuto have to order me to keep my mouth shut? Oh yeah, people don't talk like I do around here. Naruto watched as she took a few noodles from her bowl of beef ramen and started eating. Naruto ordered his usual 5 bowls of miso, followed by whatever he wanted to order after that. He couldn't help but let his eyes roam, eventually landing on the undercover Kunoichi. She wore a plain red shirt and plain black pants, along with sandals and the weird hat thing Naruto saw her wearing yesterday. She was obviously trying too hard not to attract attention to herself. So, what's your name, cutie? Naruto asked with a wink, causing the girl's cheeks to flush slightly pink. No one had ever called her cutie before. Well, Kabuto said shit like that, but he's a lecher of a fruit, so that doesn't count. Taiya, she muttered. Here he was, the target of her secondary mission, and he was complimenting her looks, and asking her name all the same, best to make sure she had the right guy in you? My name Kazama Naruto, he answered. Kazama? Taiya asked in confusion. The boy she was looking for was supposed to be Uzumaki Naruto. Then again, this kid looked exactly like Kabuto described, right down to his azure eyes. Oh well, this was him. She was sure of it. So, where are you from? Naruto asked, causing her to stiffen slightly. You gonna be in town long? She thought for a moment, trying to figure out a backstory the brat would believe. I'm from Suna, she said, coming up with it as she went. My father is here on business, and I've got my run of the town until he's finished. Suna, you say? That's great, Naruto said. You wouldn't happen to know Gaara, would you? Who? The reedhead muttered. You don't know him? He's as famous in Suna as I am here, Naruto muttered, easily poking holes in her story. Maybe Sabaka no Gaara would be a bit more familiar? Taiya thought about it for a moment. The name did sound familiar, but she couldn't place where she'd heard it before, and saying yes would only land her with him asking questions about the Suna boy. No, I think I've heard of him, but I can't really say. Naruto's smile faded slightly, and Taiya could see the diabolical glint in his eyes. This boy knew who she was. He remembered her, and there was nothing she could do about that, and then he smiled. Well, I guess not everyone knows who the Kazekage's kids are. Taiya froze. He was talking about that Gaara. Everyone in Suna knew who about him. Gaara's the youngest, and he's a redhead, like you too. Naruto's smile widened slightly before he continued. He's also a genocidal insomniac, not to mention one of my best friends. Hey, I can introduce you if I go with you when you head home. And no, that's fine, Taiya muttered, clenching her fists and teeth so tightly her knuckles turned white and Naruto could practically hear her teeth grinding together. Oh well, okay, Naruto sighed, digging into his ramen literally. How he stayed thin, Taiya had no idea. The worst part was, she couldn't look away. She just chalked it up to morbid curiosity. Say, Taiya muttered, trying to think of ways she could get this boy alone and knock him out, or maybe she could seduce him, and he'd follow her to Oto willingly? Do you think you could show me around the village? It's my first time here. After all, she did her best to sound weak and timid. She nearly clawed out her own throat. She was so good at it, it was a little pathetic. Naruto raised an eyebrow curiously. Again, he found something too good to pass up. You mean like a date? And then everything came crashing down. Dad, get over here. Naruto has a new girlfriend. The girl behind the stand, who Naruto called I am, yelled, squealing occasionally. Oh, he does, eh? Teuchi asked as he came out from the back. I'd like to meet this girl. Taiya flushed a deeper pink then. I never said anything about a date. So then, you don't like me? Naruto asked, looking downtrodden. Now look what you did. I am yelled. Naruto, are you okay? Teuchi asked, walking up close to the boy from behind the counter. I didn't do anything, Taiya yelled back. Yes, you did. You made Naruto-kun cry. He's not crying, Taiya yelled, before hearing sniffling sounds from the young blonde. You see, I am screamed. I never agreed to a fucking date with the fucking brat, you damned bitch, a whore. Taiya continued to unleash a stream of cursing and obscenities for the next 3 minutes straight, ending with her sitting back down on her stool in a huff, breathing heavily. Ah fuck, Tayuya thought. Now they're going to ask questions. Surprisingly, Naruto was the first to break from his stupor. "Huh, Tourette's?" Naruto asked, tilting his head to the side slightly. Tayuya gawked at the boy for about a second before shaking her head slightly and nodding. And Tucci seemed significantly more forgiving of her outburst after that. True, she didn't actually have any sort of coprolalia, but playing along got her out of trouble there, so she really couldn't complain. "I can usually keep it under control, but every so often, things just slip out, you know?" Tayuya said timidly. She fucking hated acting nice. "So, then what do you say to that date, Tayuya?" Naruto asked, his smile returning in full force. "I thought I told you no," Tayuya muttered. "Ah, but I'd take you to do whatever you want, and then I'd even pay for dinner afterwards," Naruto proclaimed. Tayuya couldn't believe how persistent the little runt could be, but it might work out in her favor. "Oh, alright, but just one date, and we'll see where it goes from there," she sighed. Naruto nearly jumped for joy, but then he remembered all of the things Shikamaru taught him, as well as the fact that she just happened to be the enemy. "This'll be your first date, right, Naruto-kun?" I asked. She really was like an older sister most of the time. "Yeah, I guess it is my first date, huh?" he asked in response. "What about you? I'm sure all the boys back in Suna are after you." Naruto chuckled. "Actually," Tayuya muttered, "it's my first date too." "Okay then. Let's go," Naruto yelled, grabbing her by the wrist and dragging her along before turning back to pay his tab. "Don't worry about it, Naruto, it's on the house today," Tucci said, waving him off. "Just go have fun on your date." Naruto nodded and continued dragging Tayuya along while laughing childishly. After they were about a block away, Naruto stopped and took on a solemn look. "You know, you can drop the act," he muttered. Tayuya looked at him with fear in her eyes. She was already sure he knew who she was, well, maybe 80% sure. "What do you mean?" she asked. "The act, the one you put up back at the Ichiraku," Naruto said. "I know that wasn't some Tourette's outburst there, that was the real you. Stop acting, okay?" Tayuya was dumbfounded. There was no way he was smart enough to figure that out, but dumb enough to not know who she is. Oh well, he wanted the real her. Sure, he could have her. Alright then, she sighed. "I can finally quit with the fucking act in front of the fucking people, a fag?" Naruto was taken aback slightly. This was a big personality change. "Well, I did ask for the real you," he muttered. "You're damn fucking right you did," she said, smirking slightly. Naruto glanced over to her, thinking to himself, "You know, I think I can like you, Taya-chan," he said with a smile, causing her cheeks to match her hair for an instant. Naruto saw something akin to a flinch out of the corner of his eye as he called her that. He couldn't blame her. After all, depending on how long she'd been with Orochimaru, she may never have had a single kind word spoken to her that she could remember. Enemy or no, Naruto could tell all she needed were kind words and a shoulder to cry on. Now it was just a matter of getting her to open up to him. "Don't call me that, you fucking fag!" Tayuya yelled after regaining her senses. "Hey, if you keep calling me names, then I can call you whatever I want, Taya-chan," Naruto said, smirking. "Fucking damn it," she muttered. "So, for this date," Naruto said, catching her attention, "I was hoping you wouldn't mind stopping by a friend's place to tell him I wouldn't make it for training today before we left. Then I was thinking maybe a movie?" The redhead stared at him for a moment before sighing and nodding. Fine, whatever. Naruto couldn't help but notice the look in her eyes after she said that she was happy. As they reached the Nara residence, Naruto was still telling Tayuya various tales about his past, including his many pranks. Needless to say, she was in a fit of rolling laughter by the time they found who they were looking for. "Shikamaru!" The lazy Chunin glanced over from his spot at the top of a small hill near his home, merely tilting his head to the side as he lay in the grass. "Naruto," he muttered. "This fucking cockrider is the bastard who's teaching you political shit?" Tayuya asked, rather casually despite her wording. Naruto barely kept himself from outright laughing. "Yeah, that's Shikamaru," he said, looking at the boy who was eyeing the girl curiously after hearing what she'd said. "Don't worry, she says that kind of stuff about everyone." "Ah," Shikamaru muttered. "Troublesome mannerisms." "Hey, if you don't mind, I'm heading out on a date with Tayuya," here Naruto said, wrapping his arm around the girl's waist, causing her to blush slightly while glaring at him. "So I'll have to cancel for today." "No problem," the Nara boy sighed, leaning back against the grass again. Troublesome women. 4.5 hours and 2 movies later, Naruto was slightly surprised that Tayuya picked 2 of the most violent, goriest, mature and otherwise masculine movies Naruto had ever seen. This girl seemed to be the epitome of tomba. "So, Taya-chan," Naruto started, a little unsure of what to do. How about we go find somewhere to eat? Fuck yes, I'm starving, the redhead answered, drawing a few awkward glances and glares from others just exiting the theater like them, but paying them no heed. Hey, you in the mood for anything in particular? Naruto asked, hoping she could think of something so he wouldn't have to. There really was only one place he ever ate. How the fuck should I know? Where the fuck do you go to eat? She asked in return. Well, there's this ramen stand, but I'm not sure if it's really first date material, Naruto said, rubbing the back of his neck. Anything is good, Tayuya said, and they set off. Tayuya looked over toward where her blonde date was pointing. That's the place where we met, she muttered. Naruto shrugged, rubbing the back of his neck. So it is, huh? He chuckled. Well, it's the only place I ever eat at, mainly because they don't throw me out if I try. Tayuya glanced over at him for a moment, just catching the sad look on his face before he smiled again. What the fuck are you talking about? Oh, it's nothing, Naruto muttered solemnly, walking up to claim his favorite stool. Like hell it is, Tayuya thought as she took the seat beside his. Oh, back from your date? The old man behind the counter asked. Actually, we're still on our date, Naruto stated shyly, rubbing the back of his neck. Tsuchi's eyes widened, Naruto realizing this was the first time he'd ever clearly seen the man's eyes. You're joking. This isn't the kind of place you take a girl for a date. Meh, it's fine, we didn't really have anywhere else to go, and I like the company here, Naruto said, shooting the redhead at his side an interesting glance. Tayuya then, curiously, began rummaging through her pockets. Naruto-kun, I think I dropped my flute a few blocks back, would you find it for me? She asked. In an instant, the blonde nodded and dashed away. That's our Naruto-kun, he'll do anything to make someone else happy, Ayam said as she stalked out from the back, smiling at Tayuya only to recoil from the redhead's glare. Why the fuck does everyone hate Naruto? Tayuya asked angrily once she thought the blonde was out of earshot. Tsuchi and Ayam looked at each other, their faces painted with the sorrow they'd helped alleviate from their favorite customer over the years. We can't tell you, Ayam said after a moment. Why the fuck not? Tayuya growled. Because it isn't our place, Tsuchi said, matching the young woman's glare. If he wants you to know, you'll know. Otherwise, all we can tell you is that he suffered for years when he deserved praise. The old man leaned forward, his gaze intensifying tenfold. Tayuya was sure this man was ex-shinobi or something if you ever heard him. Tsuchi was interrupted by his daughter smashing a rather large cleaver that, logically, had no right being in a ramen stand right in front of the girl. Tayuya was honestly surprised how protective these people were. Yeah, I get it, play nice. Tayuya muttered, looking off toward where her date had run, letting out a deep sigh. These people are crazier than I am. After another moment, Naruto returned, panting heavily. I'm sorry, Taya-chan, I couldn't find any flutes. Oh, no problem, it turns out it was right here the whole time, she said, pulling a rather nondescript metal flute from somewhere. Damn, I hate this. But it would be bad to act out in front of these people, they'd blow my cover, she thought, sparing a glance at Tsuchi and his daughter. Oh, that's good, Naruto said, after catching his breath. So, on with dinner. A half hour and 14 bowls of ramen later, Tayuya had 3, Naruto devoured 11. The pair were walking down the street as the sky began to redden, and the villagers began making their way home. Tayuya sighed. It was now or never. Why does everyone hate you? Naruto glanced at her curiously before she reiterated. Why the hell do these fucktards treat you worse than shit? Naruto sighed. This wasn't something he wanted to tell anyone, but he didn't want to keep it a secret either. Might as well see how Tayuya would handle it. I'll probably have to kill her anyway, so no harm done. Naruto winced at the thought. He didn't want to kill her still, he hated secrets. I'm a demon, he muttered after glancing around to make sure no one would overhear. What? Tayuya asked, unsure whether she wanted him to clarify, or if she really wanted him to have said something else. I have a demon sealed inside of me. The very demon that nearly destroyed this village 12 years ago. All of that hate with nowhere to go landed on me, Naruto said as he walked. I don't really blame them, it's human nature to hate others. That's not true, Tayuya thought. Even I know that, Naruto, you shouldn't think like that, she muttered. Naruto wasn't sure if it was her tone, or the fact that she wasn't swearing, but her words stopped him. He began to run reasons to contradict them through his mind before he saw her out of the corner of his eye, and turned to face her. Are you crying? Tayuya froze. There was no way she could be crying. Dabbing her finger under her eye confirmed that he was right, she really was tearing up. Of course, she couldn't let him know that. Of course not, she muttered, wiping her eyes with her forearm. Naruto smiled. She's crying over me, he thought. It's okay to cry, you know I do it all the time. No, it's not. She tried to deny it further, but Naruto was staring straight into her eyes. His eyes were warm and loving, but she could see something in them she was sure only someone like her could. There was a depth, loneliness, pain, sorrow, and loss in his eyes. Eyes years beyond those of the brat she thought he was. The same depths she saw in the mirror, and she was sure the boy in front of her realized it too. Naruto's eyes widened slightly, the glow of her features reminding him of something. Grabbing her wrist, he set off at full tilt. Come on! I have to show you something. Wow, Tayuya muttered as she sat next to Naruto, watching the sun set from atop Yondame's stone head. This is fucking awesome. Naruto chuckled. Only Tayuya could have put it that way and make it work. Tayuya, Naruto started after a few moments. Why don't you stay here in Konoha? Tayuya turned to face him so fast her neck and back popped in several places, a look akin to hope, anguish, and sorrow in her eyes. Before she could answer, Naruto added, instead of heading back to Suna. By the way he said Suna, it was certain that he knew she wasn't from there, but still, I don't get me wrong, you fucking brat, this isn't about you, but I really would like to stay. She muttered, turning back to face the setting sun. But I have reasons why I can't. Naruto sighed heavily. Why do you want to go back to Orochimaru so badly? Naruto asked, causing his red-haired companion's eyes to shoot open. It took a moment to rein in her thoughts, but after she did so, Tayuya sighed as well. There's no fucking way I'd ever want to go back to that. Tayuya honestly couldn't think up something insulting enough for Orochimaru. I want to stay. Damn it, but they'd fucking off me the first chance they got. Naruto smirked. She really does want to stay, doesn't she? Tayuya, what if I told you we could protect you? Tayuya chuckled morbidly, causing Naruto to rethink his words. What's worse, living the rest of your life with Orochimaru, or spending a few months here? He asked. She really didn't have a good argument. Spending anywhere from a month to a year here with Naruto was better than what her life had been until then. Fucking damn it, she muttered as her eyes filled with tears again, and she vigorously started brushing them away. Are you really telling me that being my girlfriend would be that bad? Naruto asked, doing his best not to laugh. Your Tayuya muttered, turning to face the blonde, tears still filling her eyes. She smiled, a real smile born of joy and hope, turning her head back away from Naruto, towards her lap. You're a fucking bastard, you know that? Naruto couldn't hold it in any longer. He laughed. Yeah, I know, Naruto said, wiping a tear from his own eye. So, do you want to be my girlfriend? Tayuya scoffed, shortly before tackling the boy and locking her lips to his while pinning him to the ground. A short while later, the redhead released the blonde and sat up, straddling him. I'll take that as a yes, Naruto muttered, smiling as his hands found their way to her hips. What happened next served to thoroughly mortify the boy. Tayuya unzipped his jacket and started undoing his pants. Whoa! Tai-chan, what are you doing? Naruto asked, grabbing her hands and pulling them down to her sides. Tayuya looked confused and slightly embarrassed. Isn't this what a girlfriend is supposed to do? She asked with a tinge of pink to her cheeks. Well, yeah, Naruto muttered. After a few years. Years? Are you fucking kidding me? Tayuya asked, folding her arms over her chest as Naruto refastened his pants. Well, maybe just months, Naruto added. I really have no idea how this stuff works. The redhead leaned forward, laying atop her new boyfriend as she sighed. Being a girlfriend is too fucking confusing. Naruto blushed as he realized that her chest was pressing firmly against his. Tai-chan? He asked. What the hell is it now? Damn, she said as she leaned up, before her cheeks erupted into a crimson flurry, Naruto matching it easily. Ah. Tayuya slid off of Naruto's lap, sitting beside him as he adjusted something in his pants. Sorry about that. You'd fucking better be, Tayuya muttered, her face still slightly red. Naruto sat there, next to his red-haired girlfriend, trying as hard as he could to think of something to break the awkward silence. It's beautiful, isn't it? He asked, wrapping his arm around her shoulder. Heh, fuck yeah, she answered, leaning into his shoulder. After another minute of comfortable silence, she sighed, her eyes falling to her lap. You know, as soon as someone finds out who I am. Naruto groaned. You know, there's a way around that. Tayuya's eyes shot open, and she turned toward him, her nose no more than an inch from his. What? Fuck man, out with it, damn it. Naruto smirked, leaning forward to whisper into her ear. Her eyes shot open, gaping at the boy as he pulled away from her and stared into her eyes. Naruto simply sat there and smiled, waiting to see what her reaction would be, knowing he'd have to explain it. Holy fuck, he's serious, Tayuya thought as she struggled to close her mouth. But it works, right? Fucking hell, you're going to have to run that by me again, she muttered. With a shitload more detail. The blonde merely smirked. Why the hell am I wearing this? Kidamaru asked, standing alongside his teammates, garbed in a baggy brown trench coat reminiscent of the Aburame clan. He reached up to adjust the bandana around his head with the 2 arms he had in each sleeve. This thing itches. Worse than your Hittite? Jirabu asked, he himself clad in a red-orange yukata. Yes, worse than that. This thing must have bugs or something, Kidamaru groaned. Who knows how long these clothes have been out there? He added, loath to call them anything resembling proper garments. I don't see what you shitbags are bitching about, Tayuya said as she examined herself once more. I kinda like the fags fucking pissrags. I don't see what's so bad about them either, Kidamaru Sakan muttered from beneath his bamboo hat, adjusting the fobox/backpack. And no idea what those are called. I've tried looking them up, but I just can't find them. That hit his brother's head on the back of his neck. He was also dressed in simple, dark blue robes, and curiously wore a chain of beads around his right arm. Only a fag like you would like wearing a fucking dress, Tayuya spat. Sakan sighed. He was never going to get her to stop calling him that. Let's just get this over with, Kidamaru called. Split up and search, we'll meet back here at noon. Just behind them, a silver-haired man dressed in full ANBU gear smirked behind his mask. I found him, Sakan said as they gathered at the appointed time. Where? Kidamaru asked. There is a special confinement center, in the middle of the ANBU barracks. The other 2 cringed. He is being held there, under the guard of several ANBU, as well as a few of these white-eyed Hyuga freaks Kabuto warned us about. It makes sense why we couldn't just use Henge then, Kidamaru sighed. Let's go get him then, Jirabu started, only to be caught by Kidamaru before he could head off toward the barracks. Where is Tayuya? Kidamaru asked. At Jirabu and Sakan's mutual shrug, he sighed. Come on then, we'll go find this place you were talking about. It took them over an hour to reach their destination through civilian means, making sure to avoid the eyes of watchful ANBU patrolling above. This is the place, Sakan muttered from their perch in a nearby building. Okay, Jirabu, you go find Tayuya. Sakan and I will figure out a plan, got it? Kidamaru ordered, taking command while Tayuya was indisposed. After 5 hours and 7 rounds around the premises, Kidamaru and Sakan were beginning to get annoyed. What could possibly take him this long? Sakan asked. Either he's dead, or he found an all-you-can-eat buffet, Kidamaru stated monotonously, before erupting into laughter. It's nearly sundown, Sakan noted. Yeah, we'll hit him when it's dark, with or without those 2, Kidamaru said, grinning slightly. An hour after sunset, the 2 set out into the building. They were unnerved by how few people they came across, too. That wasn't nearly enough, sure, they were utilizing a map, blueprints for the building they'd swiped from the Hokage Tower in their boredom, but still. That's when they found them bodies. At least a dozen of them, some unconscious, some bloodied and dead. Atop the pile sat a lone ANBU with silver hair. I wondered when you would show up, you're quite late, you know. Kabuto muttered as he removed the mask. Where are Tayuya-chan and Jirabu? We have no clue, Kidamaru said bluntly. Tayuya went missing, and we sent Jirabu to look for her. He didn't come back. Kabuto's nigh ever-present smirk faded. He is most likely dead then. Kidamaru and Sakan both flinched slightly. What could kill him? I don't like this, let's just get out of here, Kidamaru muttered. Very well, Kabuto sighed, opening the door he'd piled the bodies against. Who are you 2? Sasuke yelled as he caught sight of Kidamaru and Sakan. Come on, then let's get you out of here, and back to Orochimaru-sama, Kabuto said softly, cutting the chakra-draining bindings and seals from him swiftly, yet meticulously. Why should I? Sasuke yelled again. Because I'll kill you if you don't, Kabuto replied venomously, a sickening grin adorning his features as he pushed his glasses up the bridge of his nose. Sasuke scoffed as he let himself be freed. You sure they won't come after me again? Sasuke asked, silently wishing he could once more battle Naruto, and shove a fully charged Chidori through the blonde's face. Oh, they will, Kabuto sighed. Which is why I'll stay behind to clean up the mess we made. The remaining 2 of the Sound 4 eyed their superior suspiciously. Kabuto was not that generous. Are you sure? Sakan asked. You've proven your incompetence. The only thing left for you to do is escort Sasuke-kun to Orochimaru, Kabuto muttered spitefully. The pair winced again as Kabuto finished undoing Sasuke's bindings. All right, let's go, Kidamaru muttered, Sakan and Sasuke following closely behind as he began to sprint down the halls. I guess it's my turn, Kabuto muttered, using Shunshin to transport himself to the roof. In an instant, he was surrounded by no less than 3 ANBU squads. Kabuto, surrender, and we can end this without killing you. A particularly lazy voice said from behind the captain's mask. I hate being the distraction, Kabuto thought. This is not going to be a simple fight, will it? He mused. You choose to resist? The ANBU captain asked, shifting into an offensive posture. His men, including 2 women, followed suit. Yes, as a matter of fact, I do, Kabuto announced, smirking. Kimimaro? The dozen ANBU turned just in time to see 3 of their number bisected in a single swing by a monstrous beast with dark, almost reptilian skin, and massive bones jutting from its back. Kant from CH3. The blonde just smirked. Just like I thought I knew she wouldn't say no. He thought. Maybe I'm getting a little too good at reading people now. She's a good person deep down. I can tell. I said, marry me? Tayuya inched away from the boy. Yeah, I said, details fuckered. Naruto sighed. Okay, I'm important, or I will be, it's kinda confusing. Anyway, so long as you're my fiancé, the council can't throw you out of town or have you executed without the threat of me leaving the village or just plain massacring them all, Naruto said, adding a morbid chuckle at the end. Well, we could call the whole thing off after a few weeks, however long it takes Tsunade-ba-chan to register you as a Konohani, then the council wouldn't be able to touch you. Legally, Tayuya muttered. Just a technicality, my dear, Naruto chuckled, wrapping his arm around her waist. Now then, will you marry me? Tayuya thought about it for a moment, before burying her face in his chest and mumbling a single, muffled word. Tayuya. Both Naruto and Tayuya jumped up at the voice, watching as Jiraiya walked out from the brush behind them. Who is this boy? Kazama Naruto, the blonde said, smiling arrogantly as he crossed his arms over his chest. Now are you to, Jiraiya muttered. The secondary objective. He glanced over at Tayuya. She was seducing him. Good work, now we can catch him. With blinding speed for someone his size, the Oto boy dashed toward Naruto, missing as he thrust his open hand to grab the boy's head. He would have turned to continue his non-lethal assault, had he not felt a sharp pain at the base of his skull. How? He muttered, unable to move his limbs. Tayuya stood behind her old teammate, relishing in the feel of his blood coursing down her arm as she gripped the kunai she'd stabbed into him. No one threatens my fiancé, Tayuya said sternly, before smashing her foot into his back, sending him flying over the edge of the cliff that was Yandame's hair. Wow, Naruto muttered, staring at the lethal femme fatale before him. Fuck, I guess this makes me a nukenin, huh? Tayuya asked, smirking maliciously. Hell, let's get you home and clean you up. I'll talk to Tsunade-ba-chan tomorrow morning, Naruto said, wrapping his arm around her waist once more as he led her back to his apartment. The pair walked back to Naruto's apartment in silence. Even after their arrival, they barely spoke. Tayuya opted to take a long, hot shower while Naruto checked in with the Hokage, possibly find Tayuya something to wear that didn't happen to have bloodstains on it. And so, here he was standing in front of Tsunade. You did what? She asked. Her normal violent tone held nothing compared to the calm voice promising years of excruciating pain she used now. I invited her into my home, Naruto said again. Tsunade-ba-chan, you have to understand. No, I don't, Tsunade said, rising ominously from her seat. If I didn't have all of my ANBU either looking for them, or guarding Sasuke, I'd send a team there now to apprehend her. You can't be serious, Naruto growled. I am very serious, Tsunade said, stalking out from behind her desk. And since I don't have any ANBU to send, I'll have to deal with her myself. Naruto saw the way she was heading toward the door. She could have used Shunshin, or the speed attributed to all ninja, but she didn't. It was as if she was daring Naruto to impede her. So he did. Oba-chan, Naruto muttered as he stepped in front of the door. You can't do this to her. Tsunade frowned. Stand aside. Naruto stood firm. You're disobeying a direct order from your Hokage. Naruto nodded. You realize I could have you hang for this? Naruto paused for a moment, and nodded. Is she that important to you? Naruto took a deep breath, letting the adrenaline pumping into his system in anticipation of the oncoming battle cool slightly. She's just like me, he said, causing Tsunade to pause for a moment. She's been alone for most of her life. I can tell all she wants is for someone to care about her. Naruto dropped into a defensive stance and firmly added, and I care about her. Tsunade looked down at the boy she thought of like a little brother or a son, trying to find the reason for his resolve in his eyes. Do you love this girl? Naruto's eyes shot open. He didn't have an answer for her. I don't know, he muttered. Tsunade took a step forward, and Naruto braced himself to receive one of her obscenely powerful punches. But it never came. Instead, he felt her arms wrap around him. Well then, if I can't take her in, could I at least meet the girl? She asked jovially. Naruto was dumbfounded. First she wants to kill her, now she wants to meet her? Tsunade-bachan, you're not planning anything, are you? The older woman looked down at the boy with a questioning glance. If I take you to see Tai-chan, you promise not to hurt her? Tsunade continued to look at the boy as if he just started speaking in tongues, until she saw the tears forming in his eyes. She instantly switched from overprotective sister to caring mothership. It's okay, I'm not going to hurt her, she started, before jokingly adding, unless she tries to hurt me first. Naruto chuckled. Don't worry, Obachan, I don't think she'll just attack some stranger. Naruto thought for a second. Hey, do you have any spare clothes? Tsunade cocked an eyebrow at the boy's question. Why would you need to know? Well, the stuff Taiyuya was wearing got kinda bloody. Tsunade's eyes widened when Naruto said that, but he didn't show whether or not he noticed. She killed another Otonin that came after me, so her shirt at least is ruined. She killed one of her own for you? The older woman asked incredulously. Yeah, the fat one. Naruto never bothered to learn the names of the other three. They were just the girl, the fat one, the creepy one, and the one with the arms before he met Taiyuya. Just a second, Tsunade said as she walked back into her room, which was there in case she stayed too late to bother going home. In fact, to date she hadn't ever slept in her proper bed, opting instead to use this room. I'll go see if I've got anything small enough. She's about your age, right? Well, yeah, Naruto started. But she seems a little well developed for girls my age. Tsunade chuckled. That probably means she's just older than you. But she doesn't look more than a couple years older, and yet he stopped himself, his face flushing crimson. Oh? Tsunade cooed, poking her head out of her room. Do go on now. Naruto swallowed hard. Well, she's about my age, but she's about like Shizune-chan? Tsunade's eyes widened slightly. That brat has no idea how big Shizune is, does he? She thought. Well now, that's impressive. Naruto looked down at his feet as she continued. She might wind up as big as me if she keeps filling out at that rate. As big as Obachan? Naruto's wide eyes twitched slightly. This just caused Tsunade to laugh. I guess I should grab something that'll fit anybody, huh? She muttered, grabbing one of Shizune's spare yukata. She'll never know. Shortly thereafter, Naruto led Tsunade and her two Chunin honor guards, since her A and B guards were indisposed at the moment, to his apartment. This is it, he muttered. Tsunade looked crestfallen. You still live in this dump? She asked. Didn't I give you the keys to the Kazama estate? The two Chunin looked at each other in shock and confusion before Naruto answered, rubbing the back of his neck. Hee, I guess I've just been a little too excited these days to remember everything. When they reached his door, the Chunin took up positions on either side of it, as Tsunade gestured to the door. After you? Naruto unlocked the door, led Tsunade inside, and was about to call out when they heard a yell. Damn it! The fucking water went cold. Naruto sighed in embarrassment. I guess the water heater gave out again. It was then, after the water shut off, that a beautiful redhead stalked out of the bathroom, clad only in a towel. Damn fucking water, at least it stayed hot longer than it ever did at that fucking snake fag's place, Taiyuya said to herself. Hey, Taiyuya-chan, Naruto said, finally announcing his presence. This led to a kunai stuck in the wall right next to his ear. Oh fuck. Naruto-kun! Taiyuya yelled, rushing over to pull the knife from the wall. If I hadn't recognized you at the last second, she swatted him over the head. Don't sneak up on me like that. Naruto blushed as the nearly naked girl stomped away. Tsunade decided to make note of something, however, as her eyes widened slightly. That girl has a curse seal. Taiyuya flipped the kunai around in her hand, ready to use it should the blonde woman turn hostile. What of it? The redhead asked. Why would one of Orochimaru's elites betray him? The Hokage asked in reply, tossing the clothes onto a nearby table, admittedly the only table in Naruto's apartment. Taiyuya turned back to glare at the older woman. Do you have any idea what that fucking bastard put me through? Tsunade winced. She had some idea, and lucky me, I got fucked over more than the others for being a fucking bitch. She leaned forward, her glare intensifying. So then he, Tsunade muttered, backing up slightly. Taiyuya sighed, closing her eyes and folding her arms over her chest, kunai still in hand. I doubt he did what you're thinking of. For some fucked up reason or another, the fucking snake fag wasn't catching as many women as men for his fucking experiments. She was starting to rant. So the few of us he did get his damned hands on got it worse than any man. She spat. Before Taiyuya could react, Tsunade caught her in a bone-crushing hug. It took Tayuya a moment to realize the older woman wasn't trying to kill her, but was instead simply embracing her. The woman was just too damn strong. Tayuya was especially confused when Tsunade began whispering in her ear. He didn't rape you, did he? What the fuck? Tayuya yelled, pushing away from the blonde woman. I may still be damned lucky to be a virgin, but there's no way in fucking hell that faggot of a snake fucker would ever lay a hand on me. Naruto couldn't help but blush as he realized he was hearing something he wasn't supposed to. He soon found himself backing away slowly, trying to stay out of the conversation. At least she's still a virgin and oh. Bad thoughts. Bad thoughts. Well, yes, I can see where you might have a point, Tsunade said. That explains why he'd never even look at me while Jiraiya was all over the place. Now that I think about it, he was a bad example to base my judgments of Jiraiya's perversion on. So just who the fuck are you anyway? Is my boyfriend bringing home strange women already? Tayuya spat playfully. Be boyfriend, Tsunade muttered. They're already, oh boy. Yeah, the little shit cowering in the corner over there is my boyfriend. What the fuck's it to you? Tayuya scoffed. Well, technically he's my Tyu-chan. Naruto jumped in, grabbing the clothes Tsunade brought and pushing his personal vixen into the bedroom. We should be getting to bed now. The blonde blushed as he realized what he said. We should be getting you to bed now. Naruto pushed the protesting redhead into the room, tossing the clothes in and shutting the door. That's when he heard the chuckling. What? He asked as he looked up at Tsunade. Oh, nothing, it just seems like little Naruto-chan's balls finally dropped, she continued, her fervent giggling. Naruto didn't appreciate being talked about like a 5-year-old. Hey! Naruto shouted. What's this interest in my personal bits all of a sudden, huh? She only laughed louder. Oh, it's nothing. Ugh, Naruto muttered, finally taking his weight off the door and walking over to her. About the meeting. Tomorrow rescheduled, just like you asked? Tsunade said, finally calming down. It'll be after this whole Oto situation dies down a bit. Meet me in my office at noon. Naruto nodded. Sure, Oba-chan. Tsunade then turned to leave, pausing in front of the door. Naruto, she started, turning back around. Have fun tonight, any? She added with a wink. Naruto's face flushed crimson as the older blonde fled the premises, cackling like a woman possessed. Obah-chan! Naruto yelled after her, watching the two Chunin both half-heartedly smile in embarrassment as they followed their Hokage back to her tower. Naruto couldn't help but smirk at his surrogate grandmother's antics. What the fuck are you smiling about, brat? He heard from behind him, instinctively turning on his heel. He then faced a sight at which he struggled to keep all of the blood in his face. Tayuya, in a bright red lace nightgown. Tayuya-chan, he muttered, hands clasped over his nose. What are you wearing? Tayuya shrugged. Fucked if I know, it's for sleeping, right? Please tell me you're wearing something under that. Naruto continued, failing miserably as he tried to retain what little composure he had left. Under? The old bitch didn't give me anything to wear under it, she muttered. That did it. Aside from the flimsy piece of fabric between them, which was little more than tissue paper to any decent ninja, she was naked. Naruto flung himself towards the bathroom, shouting something about a cold shower, but Tayuya could barely make sense of it. After Naruto finally got out of the shower, he stalked into his bedroom to swipe a spare blanket to sleep on the floor with, but was caught in the act clad only in his boxers. Naruto-kun, why the fuck are you sneaking around your own damn room? The blonde stopped dead in his tracks as the light flicked on, revealing a slightly irked redhead standing beside the switch. I didn't want to wake you up, Naruto said, rubbing the back of his neck. I was just going to get a blanket and sleep out on the floor or somewhere. Oh fuck no, you won't, Tayuya muttered. You're sleeping in the bed. But you should sleep in the bed. You're the girl, Naruto argued. I never said I wasn't sleeping in the damn bed, Tayuya muttered. We're sleeping together. RHH, Naruto screeched, backing away from the girl. But. The redhead sighed. I never said anything about fucking, damn it. Just sleep. Naruto sighed. Oh, okay, Tayuya-chan, he muttered as he watched his girlfriend slip under his bedsheets. Tayuya saw that once again, he was hesitating. Get in the fucking bed, she growled. In an instant, he was under the sheets, trying his best to keep some distance between them, before she wrapped her arms around him. Tayuya-chan? Just shut the fuck up and sleep, she muttered as she snuggled into his shoulder. Tayuya's eyes fluttered open slowly as light filtered through the window. It took her a moment to remember why she was in an unfamiliar room, why she was so warm, and why her hand was down some boy's boxers, groping his ass. Oh, right, Naruto. She looked down to see the locks of unruly blonde hair draped over her bare chest. Apparently, her nightgown had gotten pushed up in the night, and he was laying partially on top of her, resting his head on her bare bosom. To be bluntly honest, she thought it was cute. She'd never felt this warm and content before in her life, at least, not that she could remember. And then he moved. Why the fuck is my chest sticky? She screamed in her mind. Taking a hand to her bust as she leaned up slightly, she wiped her hand in the slick substance, and brought it to her nose. Drool, she thought. Her chest was completely covered in spittle. Naruto, you bastard! Tayuya yelled, causing her blonde boyfriend to jump out of the bed. This got him out of the range of the vengeful fist currently occupying the space his skull had previously. This, of course, gave him a full view of her nude form. Naruto shot back as a wave of blood sprayed from his nose. Just as Tayuya managed to pull her nightgown back over herself, she was pelted with the red liquid. And now you ruined my favorite nightdress, admittedly, her only nightdress, but the point remained valid. Naruto cowered in the corner as Tayuya gave him a thrashing that reminded him all too much of Sakura, before stalking away into the bathroom to take a shower and wash the blood and spit off of herself. The closest thing Naruto came to a conscious thought was Ao. After her shower, Tayuya helped Naruto clean himself up, only giving him enough time afterward to clothe himself before dragging him out of the apartment. Okay, Naruto-kun, you're my boyfriend, so you get to pay for my new clothes. Tayuya muttered as she led him into a shop by his wrist. But Naruto started, before giving up with a heavy sigh. He wasn't getting out of this. Leading the blonde through the rows of clothes, she found something that made her smirk maliciously. The lingerie section. Oh, Naruto-kun, Tayuya cooed. I want to try on a few things, why don't you tell me what you like, any? Naruto simply stood there, gaping at the girl for about half a minute, while his left eye twitched relentlessly. Are you serious? He asked finally. Tayuya smirked maliciously. Oh fuck yes, you ruined my old one, so you get to help pick out my new nightdress, along with a few other necessities. Naruto silently let his eye twitch for another minute before he sighed and dragged himself forward. This isn't going to end well, he muttered. An hour and 14 nosebleeds later, Tayuya strode triumphantly out of the lingerie department with Naruto in tow, letting him carry the bags containing her 3 new nightgowns and 5 sets of undergarments. Another half hour later, and Tayuya added half a dozen sets of clothes to her boyfriend's burden. Can we go home now? Naruto asked under his breath as tears began streaming down his cheeks in mourning over the loss of his poor coin purse, Gamachan. Yeah, I suppose we can drop those off before Tayuya started, before a pair of A and BU dropped down, one in front and behind them, respectively. Uzumaki Naruto, the one in front of them, said. Curiously, his right arm was in a sling, and he had a gash along his mask that went down into his cheek, and by the way he held himself Naruto could tell his left leg was injured as well. You have been summoned by Hokage-sama, please come with us. Glancing over his shoulder, he saw that the ANBU behind them wasn't faring any better. He had what appeared to be bloodied bandages under a large rip in his uniform along the right side of his chest. The gray armor he wore over it had been replaced, but one could deduce from the shape and angle of the wound that it probably extended over his whole upper torso. Yeah, okay. Naruto muttered. In their condition, they probably couldn't take both Naruto and Tayuya, so the blonde boy could tell they were just an escort. Would you mind if I drop these off first? He added. Both ANBU glanced at each other before Tayuya spoke up. You're just here for Naruto, right? Must not swear, these are ANBU, damn it. If they get a grudge against me, I'm toast, she thought. At their nod, she held her hands out to Naruto. Here, hand those over, I'll take them home. You sure? Naruto asked as he held out the bags for her to take them. Yeah, just get done with the fucking crone and come home soon, Tayuya answered. Crone? One of the ANBU asked curiously. Tayuya cursed silently as Naruto took the initiative. Yup, Tsunade-ba-chan is really like 50. The pair heard a snicker from the more heavily injured of the ANBU, before he motioned for Naruto and his less injured partner to follow him. I'll be back soon, Taya-chan. Naruto yelled and waved back at the girl, who smiled before going on her way. So guys, what's Oba-chan want this time? The two fell silent at the blonde's question. Guys? He asked. The Uchiha escaped last night. The leader muttered. Naruto was thrown into such a shock that he stopped walking. If you want to know more, you'd better hurry up, I'm pretty sure I wasn't even supposed to tell you that much. In an instant, Naruto was flying forward at speeds even the injured ANBU were hard-pressed to match. When Naruto arrived, he burst through the door into her office. Tsunade-ba-ch, he stopped himself. In front of him, Tsunade had a small stack of red and white forms that she was in the process of filling out. He recognized them instantly, death certificate notarization forms, and the proper notification papers for the families of Kia Ninja. He knew for a fact that Tsunade hated filling out such forms, as well as the fact that it would probably be his least favorite aspect of the position as well. Sit, Tsunade said, indicating a chair opposite hers. Oba-chan, Naruto muttered. What happened? She sighed. Your plan backfired, we underestimated the enemy. Naruto's eyes widened in shock, and his mouth hung agati. How many died? He asked after a few moments. 31 people, she answered, as stoically as she could, given the circumstances. 30? 31 people, Naruto muttered, dropping his head into his hands. By Kami, I got them all killed. Tsunade slammed her fist down on her hard oak desk, knocking him out of his stupor. Really, she was proud that she was mastering the art of not smashing things. It's not your fault. I gave the orders, and your information was accurate, she started, sighing. But there were a few wild cards we didn't account for. Yakushi Kabuto infiltrated the building masquerading as an ANBU himself, and used the element of surprise to get the better of those we placed there. But still, who died? Naruto asked, tears brimming in his eyes. Tsunade sighed again. 14 ANBU, 3 Jounin, 5 Chunin, and 9 members of the Hyuga clan, 8 branch members and 1 main branch. Naruto lunged forward, knocking down the stack of papers that perpetually stood on her desk as he landed on the desk, tightly gripping her shoulders. Hinata! Niji! Both fine, Tsunade said, letting the boy calm down and return to his seat before she continued. Hayashi wouldn't allow either of his girls near the operation site, and Niji, although he was injured during Kabuto's initial attack, was not seriously harmed. Only slightly bloodied and knocked unconscious. Naruto sighed in relief. But everyone else, Iruka-sensei, Kakashi-sensei, Super Fuzz I mean Guy-sensei. Tsunade sighed again, this time much less obviously, however. Yumino Iruka was not one of the Chunin who confronted the Oto Nin. Meito Guy did confront them, but is currently recovering from minor injuries. They didn't even hit him, did they? Naruto asked, slightly embarrassed at the question for some reason as Tsunade smirked and shook her head. I'm surprised you didn't ask about me, Naruto heard from behind him, turning to see his politics tutor. You can be so troublesome. Shikamaru, Naruto muttered. You wouldn't fight if you didn't have to. The Nara boy glanced at the ceiling. True, he muttered. Tsunade-sama, the cracked mask ANBU from before started. If you are done with me, I'd like to go check on Kakashi-senpai. You are dismissed, Yamato Tsunade said solemnly. Kakashi-sensei! Naruto yelled. Hatake Kakashi was temporarily reinstated to the rank of ANBU captain for the duration of this operation, as we lack sufficient numbers to adequately perform all aspects of said operation. Tsunade started as she continued filling out one of the forms. He led the squads against Yakushi Kabuto and Kagaya Kimimaro. He was one of the 3 ANBU to survive the confrontation, along with 2 of his subordinates, Yamato, who just left, and Yuzuki Yugao, who was also seriously injured. Kakashi-sensei, Naruto muttered as his tears spilled down his cheeks. How badly was he hurt? I don't think now is the time to discuss. How badly? Naruto yelled, causing the older blonde to wince slightly. His spine was the only thing keeping his top and bottom together. Tsunade spat abruptly. Now do you see why I didn't want to say it? She instantly regretted saying it when the boy in front of her broke down in tears. Hey, okay, so I might have been exaggerating a bit. It's still my fault, Naruto choked out through his heaves and sobs. Tsunade sighed before slowly rising out of her seat, walking around her desk, and firmly striking the boy across his cheek. I told you, didn't I? It wasn't your fault, she said before returning to her seat. And even if it was, I can't let anyone who can't even handle a few deaths on their conscience be the next Hokage. The blonde boy's eyes widened slightly. What? Do you think I like giving these kinds of orders? Or finding out that by my word people died? Tsunade continued, lacing her fingers just under her nose as she leaned on the desk with her elbows. I don't. And you won't either. She added, seeing the boy's tears stop for a moment. She sighed, knowing that now she had to keep him from crying again. Let's go visit Kakashi, then. I should probably check up on him, and the others anyway. And after that, you have a meeting with the village council, doesn't he, Tsunade-sama? A particularly lazy voice said from the door. Yes, after this crisis is dealt with, Tsunade muttered. Now, if you've got anything left to tell Naruto before his meeting, you'd better do it now, on the way to the hospital. That's frickin' brilliant, Naruto muttered as they passed through the doors and into the hospital. I find your lack of faith so troublesome, Shikamaru sighed. When have any of my ideas been anything but brilliant? Tsunade was amazed as she walked behind them. It really was brilliant. Who knew that Naruto would opt for polygamy, though she thought. Well, this'll mean he'll have at least 2 wives, a few more wouldn't hurt as far as the council's concerned. Okay, we'll go and check on Kakashi. Shikamaru, you go and handle the rest of the preparations for the meeting, Tsunade said before leading Naruto down one of the hallways. Yes, ma'am, Shikamaru muttered as he turned to leave. Why do I always get stuck with the troublesome jobs? Okay, Naruto, Tsunade said as they made their way down the halls. They'll still be sedated, but just in case, I'll need you to keep your voice down. Naruto nodded, and let himself be led into the room. He had to stifle an audible gasp at the sight that greeted him. However, Kakashi, the man who always seemed so invincible, so untouchable, was lying in a hospital bed in front of him, covered in red bandages and hooked up to a respirator. Were Naruto in a better state of mind, he would have found it hilarious that the one time he sees the man without his usual face mask, he winds up wearing a fogged-up oxygen mask instead. Of course, he didn't. He was too worried about what his sensei would think had he known it was Naruto that suggested their entire plan. In the bed next to him, there was a woman with long purple hair. Naruto could only assume it was this Yuga person Tsunade had spoken of. She was in a similar condition as Kakashi. They don't blame you, you know, Tsunade said, placing a comforting hand on Naruto's shoulder. I told them it was your plan from the start. Kakashi told me he had every confidence in your abilities. You didn't make a bad call, Naruto. How can you say that? Naruto asked, his voice cracking as tears streamed down his cheeks. I nearly got everyone killed. Tsunade sighed. Getting through the boy's thick skull was going to be hard on both of them. Do you know what the average survival rate for an ANBU is? Naruto just gave her a blank stare. 37%. The boy's eyes shot wide. You mean? 63% of all ANBU that leave the village don't come back, she said, nodding. We only lost about half of the people we had working on this. To be blunt, it went better than expected. Naruto didn't speak, but his sobbing continued. Everyone dies, Naruto. Ninja or not, the ANBU are just the ones that decide to fall in battle, so others don't have to. In the end, the same could be said of any decent Hokage. That's why none of them died of old age, she added, smirking as she ruffled the boy's blonde hair. And with that track record, I won't either. Ah, Ba-chan! Naruto yelled, looking up at the woman fearfully. Hey, I didn't say I was dying tomorrow, Brat Tsunade muttered, giving the boy a light bonk on the head. But truth be told, I never liked the thought of getting old. So I guess that's a good thing, huh? She added, lightly ruffling his hair again as she stared blankly at the wall. One could only wonder what was going through her head. You're already old, Naruto muttered, shortly before his skull cracked the linoleum of the floor. The woman sighed as she watched the boy rub his bruised and, in the case of his nose, bleeding face. Deciding she'd done a little too much, she began to heal the wound she dealt the boy when his words stopped her. I don't think I'll like getting old either. The elder blonde chuckled slightly. You won't have to worry about that for a good while, Naruto-kun. As she began repairing his broken nose, she added, You'll always be a little brat to me, though. And you'll always be an old hag to me, Naruto added with a smile of his own. Tsunade reared her fist back to give the boy another concussion, but instead sighed in resignation. He'd never stop calling her old. Little did they know that a certain ANBU captain was smirking under his clouded oxygen mask. Naruto stood in front of the entire council. Shikamaru sat beside Tsunade, with Iruka opposite her as an advisor toward the blonde, since he knew Naruto far better than anyone on the council. All eyes bored down into his soul, and under the insane weight that would make most jounin buckle, this boy did the unthinkable. He smirked. What if I told you, Naruto started, an all-knowing edge to his voice that had gone unheard in the council chambers since the late Yondaime, that I held the key to your precious Sharingan? Under the insane weight that would make most jounin buckle, this boy did the unthinkable. He smirked. What if I told you, Naruto started, an all-knowing edge to his voice that had gone unheard since the late Yondaime, that I held the key to your precious Sharingan? Recap over, on with the SHIT. Everyone in the room, save Naruto and Shikamaru, either gasped audibly, or hissed as they sucked in air through gritted teeth, gaspers including Tsunade and Iruka. How is this possible? Hayashi, one of the many who still had his teeth grinding together after his snake-like intake, asked. Naruto let out a slow breath. He wouldn't admit it, but he was nervous. One of the things he practiced with Shikamaru was dealing with this sort of pressure, and learning to cope with it. Sadly, what they found worked best was smirking evilly and acting like you know more than everyone else there. Naruto found such a resemblance between himself and the old bastards he was now staring down that he'd actually made himself sick days before. It's simple, really all Kekkai Genkai start the same way, when two people with a specific gene, either a superior or unstable one, breed. Personally, I'd put my money on unstable. How dare you, Hayashi started again, only to be cut short by the blonde. When two people with unstable genetics centering on the same focal point, in this case the eyes, breed, there is a chance that the genes will react with one another, and thus make a Kekii Genkai, in this case, a Dijitsu. Similar Kekii Genkai can also be blended together to form a new one, as happened long ago when my ancestors intermingled with another Dijitsu-bearing clan, thus creating the Byakugan. Blasphemy, Hayashi cursed under his breath. The Byakugan is the oldest of Konohagakure's Dijitsu. Technically, yes. The Hyuga did join Konoha first, thus they are the oldest of Konoha's Dijitsu clans. Naruto said, shrugging his shoulders. So what if my clan came second? We were around way before you guys. We just never felt the need to argue about it. It is true, however, a new voice beside Hayashi stated, placing a large scroll before the Hyuga head. This newcomer was none other than his nephew Niji. The Byakugan was born of the Shinzenbigen, as stated in the Hyuga records. After looking the scroll over briefly, Hayashi grunted his disapproval, but let the subject fall. What does this have to do with the Sharingan? The Uchiha are derived from the Hyuga, not the Kazama. Niji immediately took this as his cue to gather up the scroll and leave. As one of the few people privy to Naruto's plans, he didn't want to be anywhere near Hayashi for the next few days. Hayashi-sama, Naruto started, crossing his arms as his smile began to fade. The Sharingan was the product of a union between our two clans. In other words, my children could possess the Sharingan, provided their mother was a Hyuga. Hayashi narrowed his eyes, the only sign left of the burning rage that welled within him. Then I take it you brought this up to sway the council and my clan into permitting you to marry a woman from my clan. Pretty much, Naruto muttered, shrugging. But of course, there's no guarantee there'll be any Sharingan from it. I mean, to be honest, I'm pretty sure it's something like a 50% chance it'll be either the Byakugan or my Shinzenbigen, or a quarter chance it'll be the Sharingan. And the other 25%? One of the other councilmen asked. Naruto shrugged again. No clue whatsoever. What do you mean? Red eyes aren't natural. Wouldn't you agree? Naruto muttered, more to himself than the council. They tried breeding together the Sharingan and Shinzenbigen once. I'm pretty sure that's how the Yuhi clan came about, just a botched mix. The representative from the aforementioned clan was furious, but it went unnoticed. Then again, they might have the most powerful Kekii Genkai in existence, and it's simply impossible to activate. The entire room went silent. It remained thus for another minute before Hayashi spoke again. Do you have a girl in mind? One from my clan. Well, Naruto started, rubbing the back of his neck in embarrassment. I figure it'd be wrong just marrying a girl I don't even know, and the only Hyuga girl I know happens to be your daughter. Anger in its lesser forms was completely lost on Hayashi now. He was practically foaming at the mouth in sheer rage, so much so that several people thought they saw steam rising from him, but shook it off as a mirage or hallucination. It was most surprising, though, that it was not Hayashi at all that spoke next. Hinata or Hanabi? One of the councilmen asked. His clan was rather close with the Hyuga, at least as close as one can get to the Hyuga hell. Why not both? He blurted out. What? Came Hayashi's frenzied roar as he shot from his chair. The man gave a placating smile, gesturing for Hayashi to retake his seat as he began to explain himself. Your daughters are, in fact, descended from the purest of all Hyuga blood, are they not? Hayashi didn't answer. It was obvious what it would be, though. Of course they were, then would it not stand to reason that they are the best candidates for this arrangement? He tried to word it as nicely as he could, and failed miserably. The girls were nothing but breeding stock as far as most of the council were concerned. Now, if the boy is correct in his assumption at the numbers, then clearly they would bear a child with the Byakugan to carry on as the head of your clan. They expected them to bear children. Many children, eventually one with the Byakugan would be born, and this logic began to sway many of the council. I would also need a girl without a Kekii Genkai to make sure the Shinzenbigen and my clan name are passed on. Naruto began again, bringing all eyes back to him. But I think I've got that covered. What do you mean? Hayashi asked. This was between him and the brat. Now everyone seemed surprised except for Shikamaru, even Tsunade. I figure my fiancé would be up to the job, Naruto said, shrugging and smirking once more. Fiancé? Tsunade yelled. Yeah. I asked her to marry me. Naruto yelled cheerfully, knowing Tsunade would be able to figure out who he was talking about. Kami, you don't mean, Tsunade muttered, apparently having been heard by Naruto, as he was vigorously nodding. Who is it you're talking about? Another faceless politician asked. Oh, her name isn't important, you wouldn't know it anyway. Naruto scoffed. What you should know is that she's a little older than me, and thus nearly of mothering age. This got the council muttering and talking amongst themselves. Truthfully, Naruto didn't plan on having kids for a long time, but they didn't need to know that. After another few moments that seemed like hours, an old man stood and said, "You may go, Uzumaki. We will send you any required documentation regarding our final decision regarding what has been said here today." "Are you fucking serious?" Tayuya muttered, barely holding in her laughter. "Hell yeah," Naruto said, chuckling away. The looks on their faces were priceless, especially Hayashi. Naruto had just returned home from the meeting, and after a simple "how did it go?" from Tayuya, the blonde went to work regaling her with the finer points, what he thought of as the finer points anyway, of the meeting. Including how they now thought she was his fiancée, and the fact that Naruto was intent on taking multiple wives. "I still don't like the thought of sharing, you know," she muttered. Naruto groaned slightly and put up his hands in a comfortably familiar seal. "Not too often you'll have to, you know," a Kage Bunshin said as it popped into existence behind her. "Hell, I'm the clone and I've got enough chakra to make dozens of clones." Tayuya scoffed. "So when I'm lonely, you're just going to stick me with some copy?" "Actually, funny story about that," Naruto muttered as the clone vanished into a cloud of smoke. "Everything my clones do, in a way, I do. I remember everything from their point of view, so even if it's a clone with you, I'll remember it like it was me, and really, it is me, or at least me when I make it. They think just like me and they've got all my memories." "Okay, whatever. Honestly, you'd never tell it wasn't me," Naruto said, waving his arms frantically as he childishly emphasized his words. Before he could continue his attempts to persuade the young woman into understanding, however, they were both interrupted by a knock at the door. Naruto made his way to the entrance to his home in an instant, flinging the door open with gusto, pleasantly surprised by who he saw. Tsunade Basi. Before Naruto could finish his words, he was flung through the room by a solid fist to his jaw. "I can't believe you of all people would get yourself engaged to a woman the same day that you met her. Married? Do you have any idea what that means?" "Of course not. You're 12 for Kami's sake," Tsunade raged, storming into the room and immediately pacing around like a predator itching to strike down anything that moved. "Hey bitch, you can't come in here and fuck around with my man just because you don't like what the fuck I am to him," Tayuya yelled. "Unfortunately, she just happened to be yelling at a pissed-off half-drunk Hokage and you," Tsunade snapped, turning her wrath upon the redhead. "You're barely older than he is. Hell, I bet neither of you are even old enough to get married. Damn those bastards on the council for okaying this shit," the older woman raved, too focused on the girl to notice Shizen sweeping past her and into the room Naruto flew into, fearing for the boy's life after hearing the resounding crash that had ensued. "I don't know who you think you are, but you're damned psychotic if you think I'd let Naruto marry some damned Odo whore he just met. Do you have any idea what the hell this would do to the rest of his life?" Tayuya smirked at the irony of it. "Why the hell would I?" she asked, choking on her voice as she tried to keep it calm and reserved. Having a crazy snake bastard yell at her for hours, she could handle. Having some perverted fag with a snake fetish scream at her, she could deal with. Having the one person she knew could keep her and Naruto apart insult her like this, that was just wrong. "Of course I don't, you bitch," the girl screamed, tears beginning to form in her eyes. "How the fuck would I know how bad I'd fuck up his life? I've never had a boy so much as look at me before Naruto. Fucked if I know why he gives a damn about me, but he does." Tayuya slowly advanced on the older woman until she could smell the liquor on the blonde's breath. "And I'll be damned if I let you fuck up whatever it is we have, even if we're not getting married." Tsunade was easily taken aback by the redhead's outburst. One could even call it a sobering moment, one she dearly needed. "Not getting married? What do you mean?" Tayuya backed off a few feet before slumping back into Naruto's couch. Usually she was just a bubbling pot of festering rage, but exploding like that really took a lot out of her. "We never planned on getting married, it's just something Naruto came up with in case the council tried to do anything to me before you could make me a damned citizen here so they couldn't touch me, then we'd call it off and try to date like normal people." "Ah, now I get it," Tsunade muttered, sitting down next to the girl. "I'm sorry about the misunderstanding." Thinking for a moment, she realized just how badly they needed to change the subject, and decided to lighten the mood. "So, you really never caught anyone's eye back home?" Tayuya, if possible, looked even more dejected and downtrodden than she had moments earlier. "None that wouldn't treat me any better than a hunk of meat with holes in the right places." Tsunade winced at that. Her plan to cheer the girl up failed miserably. "Naruto isn't like that," the older woman said softly. "And you're nothing like I thought you'd be either." "So now I'm good enough, eh?" Tayuya chuckled. Tsunade nodded. "You'll be good for him, I think," she said before lifting herself to her feet and stalking away to wherever the blonde boy landed. Shizen had moved him onto his bed, and was healing the minor wounds he'd sustained from the impact, fretting over him like the older sister she always seemed to be to him. Shizen, when she got no answer, she tried again. Shizen? And again Shizen. She jumped, flailing to her feet from Naruto's bedside. Why yes, Tsunade-sama? Is he going to wake up any time soon? I'm awake now, the blonde boy in question muttered, leaning up and rubbing his still aching skull. No thanks to you. Well, we need to talk to you if you can, Tsunade continued. In private, she muttered, glancing over to the redhead that had followed her from the couch. Taiya grumbled a few inaudible curses before turning her back to the trio. I'll be in the shower. Tsunade sighed. The girl needed to hear it too, but from Naruto, not her. As soon as she heard the water start up, she nodded and turned back to the boy. You fucked up bad. Naruto's eyebrow twitched upward. You know, you've got a lot more in common with Taiya-chan than I thought, he muttered, causing the older blonde to pause for a moment. Deciding to think his statement over later, Tsunade continued. The council has agreed to permit a special case marital arrangement for you. In other words, you can marry as many girls as you want on a few conditions. Seeing the boy's face light up before falling into concern told Tsunade all she needed to hear about how much he wanted to know what his new rules were. The first is a minimum number of women. She hissed out venomously. I'm not going to tell you what the numbers are yet, but I am going to tell you that if you don't have a certain number of wives lined up at a certain age, the council is going to find them for you. I'm sure you don't want that. Hell no, Naruto mumbled. There's another stipulation that has something to do with that, but I'm sure you're going to hate this one, Tsunade started. Because your bloodline is so valuable, they're not going to let you leave the village until you've got an heir that can carry on in case you die on a mission. What? Naruto roared. They can't do that. That's ninja business, and they're the civilian council. What about Sasuke? They didn't make him leave an heir. They tried to, Tsunade said. There are quite a few records about the fuss they made over Sasuke's consistent refusals to do so. I knew he was gay, Naruto muttered under his breath. Even gay men can fill a cup, Naruto. He was just stubborn, something about not letting the council pick his clan's gene pool for him. I'm sure you don't want that either, right, Naruto-kun? Shizen asked, deciding to make her presence known again. Yeah, hate to say it, but Team had a point there, Naruto muttered as he bit down on his furrowed index finger. Still, what to do about that damn ban on me leaving? Well, all you need is an heir, Shizen mumbled, blushing slightly. Well, wait, what? Naruto asked, looking from one woman to the other. You mean have a kid, right? Shizen nodded. Don't you know any women old enough to bear children that you could talk to? Well, I am about what's the age group again? Naruto asked shyly. Around 15 to 45 is about the age women can have children, but 20 to 30 is usually the safe age. Naruto gave the older blonde a blank look as she spoke. He never expected her to answer the question at all. So, are you close to any women that age? Naruto struck a thinking pose, going over everyone he knew personally in the easiest way he could think of, in the order he met them. And then it hit him. Glancing between the older women, he blushed before tapping his index fingers together much like he'd seen Hinata do many times before. Does Hinata do this because she always feels as embarrassed as I do now? That doesn't make any sense, he thought, shaking his head to get his mind back on topic. Well, there's one girl young woman, I think she's the right age. I mean, I should know, I see her practically every day, Naruto chuckled, reverting back to a lesser form of showing embarrassment that he was far more familiar with, rubbing the back of his neck. But the boy added, sounding downtrodden. Well, she's like an older sister to me, I'm not sure if it'd be right. Tsunade and Shizen glanced at each other, both curious who the woman in question could be, moreover, who in all of Konoha was a big sister to Naruto. Well, Tsunade muttered, taking the initiative after the awkward silence. Why not ask her about it? Are you kidding? Naruto snapped. You can't just walk up to someone and ask them to bear your children. Tsunade and Shizen both blushed at that before simultaneously muttering right. Why not try something simple? Like making small talk and working her age in? Shizen asked half-heartedly. You did say that you weren't sure about her age. I thought it was rude to ask a woman about her age, Naruto stated cautiously. Well, it is, Shizen muttered. If you don't have any tact, Tsunade added. If you work it into casual conversation, then it's not as bad. TCH, well then, what about you, Shizen-chan? Oba-chan looks about as old as you, but I doubt you're 100 and something. Naruto dodged several swift punches and kicks from the enraged Hokage. I'm 28 years old, Shizen muttered with a strange conviction that halted the rampaging Tsunade and Naruto, both now looking her way and wondering why she was beat red. Why do you ask? Curious. Naruto shrugged. Naruto, listen to me, Tsunade said, recapturing the boy's attention. Jiraiya is going to be heading out in a few days and he'd like to take you with him. I'll tell you the details later, but suffice to say you don't have too long to talk to your mystery woman about an heir. Before Naruto could stop them, the duo were already outside his apartment, heading back towards the Hokage Tower. T.S. Tsunade-sama. Yes, Shizen, is something wrong? You're stuttering again. I think Naruto-kun was talking about. Shizen trailed into inaudible muttering. What was that? Tsunade asked. Odoto was talking about me, Shizen said, hanging her head slightly. Little brother? Naruto? Tsunade thought. Holy shit, well, I guess the question now is whether or not you'd mind bearing a child with him. The older woman shrugged, hiding her otherwise obvious repugnance regarding what she was hearing and saying. Shizen simply flushed red, finding her hands clasped together in front of her dreadfully interesting for some reason. Naruto had found his way to bed soon after the women left his home, and Tayuya wordlessly slipped under the sheets to cuddle up next to him. The boy was too lost in thought to say or do anything. I should probably ask Ayame-chan how old she is tomorrow. Naruto and Tayuya woke much more pleasantly than they had the prior morning. Tayuya was snuggled up against Naruto's chest as she lay atop him, having somehow unbuttoned his pajama shirt in her sleep, thrown his odd nightcap across the room, and left a tear halfway up his left pant leg. How either could figure. Her garb, however, was strangely untouched in comparison. Pushed up and ruffled with a small rip in the lace trim that must have gotten caught on one of Naruto's buttons. Luckily, she had wisely decided to wear panties to bed, so no harm was done. After a quick discussion regarding their plans for the day, the two ate a quick breakfast of cereal and toast before heading their separate ways, Naruto to Ichiraku's and Tayuya to Tsunade's office to start on her registry as a Konohanin. Naruto's job was simple: talk to Ayame, ask her age, and numbers permitting, request that she bear his first child. No pressure. Naruto! The familiar feminine voice of the Ichiraku daughter chimed. Here for a bit o' brunch? Naruto gave her a questioning look before shaking his head slightly. Not really too hungry. Ayame stifled a gasp. I'm actually here to talk to you, he said, doing his best to keep himself from blushing. I'll probably want a bowl or two before I leave, anyway. Oh well, what did you want to talk about? Ayame asked as she began cleaning one of the bowls from an earlier customer. Well hey, where's the old man? Oh, father doesn't always come in this early. I wasn't expecting you for another few hours, Naruto-kun, Ayame said, smiling broadly. It must be tough getting old, huh? Naruto asked abruptly. Hey, he's not as old as he looks. This is my chance, Naruto thought, his eyes widening slightly. I bet you look pretty young for your age though, right? Ayame blushed slightly. Oh, stop it. If anything, I look older. I'm only 17, you know. Naruto thought, scrunching up his face a bit. Well, she's a little young, but not too much so. Still, I'll ask Tsunade first, and then ask to Ayame-chan if Oba-chan okays it. Well, I bet you get asked out a lot, huh? Every now and then, she answered. Why this sudden interest in my dating life? I'm not sure my boyfriend would appreciate it, she added with a rather flirty wink. Oh, boyfriend? Shit. Never mind then, Naruto said, smiling. What do you mean, never mind? Ayame asked, blushing brightly. Naruto sighed. Well, the truth is, there's this weird clan Kekkai Genkai thing, he muttered, shrugging. It just so happens the council's gotten themselves obsessed over mine, and now they won't even let me out of the village if. Naruto stopped himself, spinning around on the stool so that he faced away from her, hiding his reddened cheeks. If I don't leave my jeans behind just in case. So then Ayame started, her blush magnifying alongside Naruto's. Naruto immediately spun back to face her, an insanely wide smile plastered on his maw. Like I said, never mind, he said before hopping off of the stool and jogging away. I'll be back later. Ayame watched as the boy she thought of like a little brother ran off. I was kidding about having a boyfriend, she thought to herself. But then again, I like to draw the line at legal when it comes to guys. He's just too young. She nodded. So why the hell can't I stop blushing? Tayuya stood in front of the Hokage's desk, oddly silent as she waited for the older woman to speak. Well, you're just the person we wanted to talk to, right, Shizen? Without giving her assistant time to reply, she continued. Aside from Naruto-kun himself, anyway, we've got some papers for you to fill out, and a few things to ask you regarding Naruto's children. Tayuya scowled. I plan to birth a good number of the fucking runts. What's it to you? Shizen was next to speak. Naruto-kun has been restricted to travel within the city walls. When the redhead started glaring her down, Shizen quickly strung words together. Naruto can't leave until he has an heir we can breed even if he doesn't come back. After realizing what she'd said, she couldn't help but feel heavily deflated. You want me to dash? Tayuya started, until the Hokage interrupted her. Of course not, you're much too young to be a mother, she smirked. Of course, there are other options. Nodding to Shizen, she leaned forward and clasped her hands together in thought as if waiting for something. Shizen started before bowing as low as she could manage while standing. I would be honored if she took a deep breath before continuing. If you would permit me the privilege of bearing your lover's first child. To say Tayuya was shocked would be a monumental understatement. Why the fuck would I be okay with it? I've always wanted children of my own, Shizen said, rising from her bow. But I've never found anyone I could settle down with, and now Naruto-kun needs a child to restore his full shinobi status. Two birds with one stone? Tayuya asked, an edge of irritation in her tone. Shizen nodded slowly. Well, don't think I'm going to be fucking fine letting some bitch twice my fucking age fuck my man. Tayuya paused for a moment before her stance faltered, letting her body sink to mirror her own depressive state. But I'm not ready to be a mom. And for Naruto to get his right to travel back, he needs a child, preferably a son. Tsunade said, getting odd looks from the other two, causing her to drop into her thinking pose, with her hands clasped and hiding the lower half of her face. A woman can give birth to only one child at a time, while a man, like Naruto, can have several children at once with more than one woman. Tayuya and Shizen nodded in understanding. I don't like saying it, but the council has at least one good point. Naruto's bloodline is important. Personally, I hate the Uchiha as much as the next person in their right mind, but the Sharingan is damn powerful, not to mention Naruto's own Shinzenrigan. Well then, Shizen started, walking up to Tayuya. Should we give Naruto-kun the good news? Yeah, sure, why the fuck not? Tayuya muttered, leading the older woman out of the office. Just then, the trio heard an odd cry in the distance. It sounded like squealing? Tayuya and Shizen just shrugged it off, but Tsunade knew better. It looks like Hinata-chan just found out who she's marrying. Naruto also heard the odd shriek of joy, but he didn't know what to make of it, so he just kept walking on his way to Tsunade's office, oblivious to the fact that Tayuya and Shizen were already on their way straight back to their apartment. Once he arrived, Tsunade looked rather surprised to see him, mostly because he actually chose to open the door instead of kicking it in. Oba-chan? He asked, walking up to her desk after seeing that the room was empty aside from the Hokage herself. Wani-chan didn't work out. Turns out she's got a boyfriend or something. Figures, eh? Tsunade's eyes shot open for an instant before slowly returning to normal. You mean you weren't talking about oh dear? Tsunade muttered. What are you talking about? Oh, nothing, Naruto, just be sure you head home soon. Like now? Actually, I was kinda hoping you'd let me check on Kakashi-sensei again, see how he's doing, you know? Naruto muttered, causing Tsunade to sigh. Okay, one quick visit, and then you get your ass home to sleep, Tsunade said as she rose to her feet and led the way. Knowing the boy would be rather curious as to her intentions, Tsunade quickly thought up an excuse. You need to rest up for the mission I've got planned for you tomorrow. Shit. Mission? What mission? Naruto asked, half ecstatic with a surprising amount of frustration and anxiety mixed in. I can't leave the village, remember? I'm pretty damn sure there's no decent missions inside the village. Oh, you'll find it's rather important to you. Yeah, that works, she thought as she came up with the perfect mission for him. You'll be briefed tomorrow at noon. Noon? Naruto asked, dumbfounded. I expect you'll be busy until then. Her words just left the boy more confused. When they arrived at the hospital room, they were greeted by a familiar wave and a lazy yo. Kakashi-sensei! Naruto yelled, running up beside the bed and nearly tackling the man before remembering that he was injured. So, you're okay then? Well, Kakashi started before Naruto noticed he was still wearing his oxygen mask, a fact that was obviously bothering the copy ninja. Turning to a nearby nurse, Kakashi made a motion obviously discerned as "Can't I take this off?" As she helped him remove the thing, Naruto saw the nurse flush red for a moment before Kakashi turned back to the boy, miraculously fully masked once more. I'll be fine in another few weeks. So, Naruto, what brings you here? I was worried and I still feel a little guilty for. Don't. Kakashi cut in. Every ANBU dies young. One of the reasons I resigned, actually if ANBU didn't do these dangerous missions, then who would? Someone would have to. Naruto nodded slowly in understanding. Every ANBU knows what they're doing when they join. We're the people that happen to be strong enough to stand any chance of coming back from these missions. Kakashi looked down at his heavily bandaged torso. No A and BU expects to come back from any of their missions, that's how we're trained. Some of us, he started, glancing over at the still unconscious purple-haired A and B woman. Don't want to come back, he added sadly. I see, Naruto muttered. Trying to lighten the mood, Kakashi decided a change of topic was in order. So, I hear you've gotten yourself engaged, he smirked as the boy blushed with embarrassment. I'd like to meet the girl that managed to get you to give up on Sakura. Naruto hissed through his teeth when he heard her voice. Speaking of which, how is she? I haven't heard from her in a while. She's Haruno-san is fine, Naruto muttered angrily. Just a little bitches since her little boyfriend left her. Kakashi honestly never expected this sort of reaction from the boy, almost like he hated her. I'm sure Sakura-kun will get over it eventually for the sake of her career, at least. I don't happen to share your faith in her, Naruto muttered as he turned to leave. I need to go and rest up for my mission tomorrow, according to Tsunade-bachan. I'll talk to you later. When Naruto had finally left, Tsunade walked up to Kakashi's bed and sighed. They had a bit of a falling out. You shouldn't hold Naruto responsible for it. I don't. I'm the one to blame for not realizing what was happening, Kakashi answered. I think you should know I got an anonymous report stating that Haruno Sakura openly expressed her desire to become a missing nin to follow Sasuke shortly before being knocked unconscious. Tsunade continued. Kakashi sighed. Naruto? Probably, Tsunade replied. Just watch the girl, she's rather emotional right now. Thank you for telling me, Hokage-sama. I'll speak to her myself after I'm released from the hospital. Once Tsunade was safely back in her office, she reached down into one of the many secret compartments in her desk and removed a bottle of sake. Interestingly enough, her stashes kept restocking themselves, probably shizen, she mused. And then came the knock on her door. Enter, she sighed. Tenten slowly and shyly made her way into the room, closely followed by her teammate, Hyuga Niji. The behavior wasn't like the girl at all, even Tsunade could tell, and she barely knew her. What's wrong? Tsunade asked. Go on, Niji chimed in his own encouragement, nodding his head towards the Hokage. That is, you see, Tenten muttered, acting more like Hinata than herself. Then Niji placed a comforting hand on her shoulder, and she nodded to him before taking a deep breath. I want to marry Naruto-kun, she blurted. Tsunade simply sat there, letting her eye twitch. This was going to be a very interesting day. Tsunade could barely believe her ears. Another one-up, she muttered under her breath. You know, I'm pretty sure Naruto is the person to talk to about marrying him. Tenten's eyes started to tear up, and Tsunade was in no mood to hear her cry. Niji, you told her about the damn minimum, didn't you? What? The Hyuga boy asked, still cleaning out one of his ears with a pinky. Did something happen to you? Tsunade asked. I had the honor of delivering a certain letter to Hinata-sama, Niji muttered, thinking back on the moment. Hayashi had arrived home with a pair of letters signed and sealed by the village council. All Niji heard from the clan head was that they were regarding his daughter's respective marriages, and that he was to deliver the letter he was currently holding to Hinata, while Hayashi took the second letter to Hanabi. Niji soon found himself in front of Hinata's door. He could find his way here while asleep if need be. He wound up sent to summon her so often. What she did while holed up in her room all day while she wasn't training, he wasn't even sure he wanted to know. Knocking on the door, Niji stood at attention and stated, Hinata-sama, are you there? Of course she was, but he wanted to be somewhat polite, even though Hinata repeatedly told him he didn't need to be. Why yes, Niji and I, and one moment, please. He heard from the other side of the door, along with a frantic ruffling of fabric. Why yes? She asked after finally opening the door. From the slightly disheveled look of her hair and nightshirt, plus the way her bedding was haphazardly put back together, added to that by the fact that she seemed slightly winded and sweaty, she was either sleeping in and had a nightmare of some sort, or Niji blushed slightly as the image popped into his mind. Niji cleared his throat before continuing. I am here by order of your father to deliver this, he said, handing her the letter. I am told it regards your marital arrangements, he added with an almost sad tone. Niji could easily see the despair and anxiety in her face. Her legs even looked like they were about to buckle. She was tearing up by the time she could speak. Thank you, and Niji and I-san. Niji sighed unnoticeably. I would suggest you open it before you become too emotional. He tried his best to keep his aloof and uncaring look up while he said it. It was hard trying to get your point across without showing emotion in a situation like this one. Hinata nodded and broke the seal on the parchment. After reading it through several times, she was sure she read the name right, Each time her eyes flowed over the words Uzumaki Naruto, her smile grew and her mood brightened until she felt like she was going to explode. So she did. In the form of the loudest fangirl squeal ever heard in any of the elemental countries. Niji instantly knew why Hayashi wanted to deliver Hanabi's letter. Personally emotional support for the youngest sister, my ass, he thought, barely catching Hinata as she fainted. Not long after that, Tenten had come to visit, talking about how she was thinking of asking Naruto to go out with her. Niji relayed what he had overheard at the council meeting, and they soon found themselves on their way to Tsunade's office. Ah, Tsunade muttered. I could take a look at your ears later if you'd like. That would be appreciated, Hokage-sama, Niji said, bowing politely. So what makes you think that you can just marry Naruto? Tsunade asked, turning to Tenten. Tenten muttered, shrinking away under the piercing gaze of her idol. Tenten has informed me of her intentions, if I may speak for her? Niji asked. At his words, Tenten started nodding fervently. Tsunade sighed. Very well. Tenten has learned much about Naruto-sama's Kekkei Genkai from me and Naruto-sama himself, Niji began. And she feels that, with her specialty in weapons, the Shinzenbagon's properties, and Naruto-sama's persona, he would simply be the best father for her children. As he said this, Tenten flushed red. Niji smirked. She also seems to have a crush on him. This earned him a firm punch to the shoulder from his embarrassed teammate. Tsunade chuckled. Well, in the end, it's up to Naruto. I can arrange for him to talk to you tomorrow, if you want. Tenten nodded. That would be good. I also assume she knows everything, including Naruto's restriction from leaving the village until he has a viable heir. Both Niji and Tenten were visibly taken aback by this, indicating they knew nothing of it. In any case, he should be taking care of that about now, she added, inciting a blush from Tenten and causing Niji's eye to develop a spontaneous twitch. You mean he's Tenten started? Making babies. Yup, Tsunade said, nodding her head humorously. That a problem? I know, Tenten said, her blush returning in full force. Good. Naruto is supposed to show up here at noon tomorrow. Be here a little before then, and we'll have a little chat with him, Tsunade said, smirking maliciously. Why yes, Hokage-sama. Tenten bowed before quickly making her way out of the tower. Tenten-san is so skittish when it comes to you and Naruto-sama, Niji muttered. She admires you greatly. I know, Tsunade sighed, taking another swig of sake. So, how is Hidamori-chan doing? Niji sighed. I spoke to her earlier today. She says the family has moved up our wedding to whenever Hinata-sama is married. One more reason he despised the main house. They do not wish to pay to set up 2 weddings. So they'll just take what's left over from Naruto and Hinata's wedding and simply reuse what they can for yours. Cheapskates, an oddly hypocritical insult coming from the legendary loser who always seemed to find herself in debt, but true nonetheless. And knowing what the council has agreed upon with the family, we can expect the wedding to be less than a month away, Niji stated. Well, I'm sure she'll make you a very happy young man, Tsunade chimed. Hidamori-sama scares me, Niji said with a slight shudder. Well, first, you're marrying her. You can start calling her Chan, you know. Tsunade chuckled. And second, if you actually spent some time with her, maybe she wouldn't be so scary. Even if you've got reason to be scared of her, I'm sure you could soften her up after a while, ask her out on a date, or something. Niji nodded. I think I might try that. You'd better. Marrying a girl you've never even been out on a date with? Shameful, she muttered, smirking. I'll pass that on to Naruto-sama, Niji said as he started making his way towards the doors. Hold up, Tsunade said, catching the boy by his shoulder and glaring into his ear. How can you hear? I can't. I read lips fairly well, however, Niji replied. Naruto swiftly arrived back at his apartment, to find a peculiar sight upon opening the door: Tayuya and Shizen talking almost like friends. Tayuya was chuckling madly while Shizen's face flushed red. What are you two talking about? Naruto asked. Your ass, Tayuya blurted. Naruto jumped back slightly, glancing over to Shizen, whose face deepened to a darker shade of crimson under his gaze. And other parts. Shizen-chan. Naruto yelled, I don't get why you're here. What's going on? Why were you talking about my? He blushed as he thought about it. Gra! What do you want from me? He yelled, clutching his aching skull. Tayuya and Shizen glanced at each other before the redhead pointed to her black-haired counterpart. Fuck her, Tayuya stated bluntly. Naruto stood, glancing from Tayuya to Shizen, his blush steadily darkening. After a moment, his eyes started twitching, and then a trail of red began to drip from his nose. Tayuya barely caught the boy as he fainted. "Is his Naruto-kun okay?" Shizen asked. The redhead looked down at the boy, wiping the blood away. "He's fine." Hyuga Hinata was dancing on air, flitting through the halls with the letter she'd received from the council clutched tightly to her chest. She just had to find someone, anyone to talk to so she could shout to the world that she was marrying the boy she loved. Unfortunately, the first person she happened upon was an unusually downtrodden Hanabi. "Hanabi-chan!" Hinata yelled, foregoing formalities in her euphoria. "You won't believe it! It's so wonderful, and is something wrong?" Hanabi looked up at her older sister for a moment before sighing and shaking her head. "Father informed me of an arrangement he made with the council." This piqued Hinata's interest. "As an heir to the purest of Hyuga lines, the council has seen fit to bind me to a boy to breed his Kekii Genkai." Hinata froze. It wasn't possible, was it? There was no way Hanabi was marrying Naruto. "I'm marrying him." "You mean?" "Then again, it doesn't seem so bad. Naruto-san is rather cute," Hanabi said, a light blush on her cheeks. "For a boy, I mean." But Hinata muttered, her face pale with shock and horror. "I'm marrying Naruto-kun." Hanabi sighed again. "So they got you too, huh?" Hinata gave her a questioning glance. "Father told me everything. I'm surprised he hasn't talked to you already. Naruto-san's Dijutsu, mixed with ours, makes the Sharingan." Hinata gasped. "Yeah, I know. That's why we're marrying him." "TTT to be bear and Naruto-kun ch children?" Hinata sputtered, though making both her and her sister flush red. "Why, yeah," Hanabi answered, glancing away from her sister to try and hide her blush. "Hinata-chan." Hinata turned to see several men, some old, but the one who'd spoken looked a few years too young to be called middle-aged. Hayashi stood in the center of the group, glaring at the man in front of him. "My colleagues and I would like to take a moment of your time to talk to you." Hinata nodded, one of the worst mistakes of her life. Naruto rose groggily from his bed, to the unfamiliar scent of tea. "He didn't even know he had tea, Tae-chan?" he asked, rubbing his somewhat aching skull. He was greeted not by the familiar red-haired girl entering the room, but rather a warmly smiling Shizen holding a tray with tea. "Naruto-kun, are you feeling better?" she asked. "Why, yes," Naruto said, blushing as he wondered whether or not what he was remembering really happened. "So I am." "You two going to fuck anytime soon?" Tayuya asked from the door. "You know, I've got places to be, but I can't go without Naruto to keep the fucking bastards in this shithole from figuring out who I am and trying to fucking kill me." Naruto blushed again. So what's all this?" he started to ask, cut off by Shizen. "I'm just so happy," Shizen muttered as she began to tear up. "That I can finally have children of my own, and that I can help you by having them." She moved the tray so that it was no longer between them, taking hold of his shoulders and pulling him into a soft embrace. Thank you, Naruto-kun." Naruto awkwardly returned her hug, trying to figure out what the hell she was talking about when he realized just what he must have sounded like as he told Tsunade and her about "I am." "Hey, how did you figure out I was talking about you?" he asked, an indisputably fake smile plastered over his features, but no one seemed to be able to see through them so far. Tayuya just stood in the corner and scowled. The redhead stalked out of the room, shutting the door behind her as Shizen released Naruto. "I just knew," she answered, smiling. So Naruto muttered, his face flushed red. "What do I do now?" "Well, first you take your clothes off," Shizen chuckled as she began to undo her yukata. Naruto's face was completely crimson as he saw Shizen, in nothing but a pair of panties. "Oh wow. Here, let me help you," she said, taking hold of the latch of his pants. Naruto wanted to struggle free, but knew it wouldn't do any good. Shizen was Tsunade's apprentice as far as he knew. She could be just as scary as her teacher. "There we go," she muttered as she finished pulling his shirt over his head. And thus the two sat there for a moment on Naruto's bed in nothing but their underwear. "I think I know what to do now, but why don't you start?" Naruto sputtered. "Nervous about your first sexual experience?" Shizen asked, eliciting a nod from the boy. "I was too, don't worry, it's normal," she added, reaching out for his hand and pulling it to her. Shizen-chan. "Baby steps, and Naruto-kun?" Shizen smiled, blushing. She was obviously just as nervous as Naruto, even if she was a bit more forward. "Yeah?" Naruto muttered. Her hands returned to his shoulders, but Naruto's hand remained on her chest, giving it a tentative squeeze. She blushed brighter, but nodded for him to continue. At this, he began to inch forward. When he'd closed half the distance between them, his other hand found her chest as well, and he felt her slowly pulling him towards her. After what seemed like an eternity, Their lips met, sending a pleasant shudder down Naruto's spine. Naruto spent the next half-hour familiarizing himself with Shizen's body, doing so as innocently as he could. He couldn't stop himself, however, after the way she'd responded so positively to him needing her, or his tongue combating with hers after the first few moments. Naruto had let one hand leave her chest to explore the remainder of her body, mainly her back and stomach, ending behind her neck, deepening their kiss. "Shizen-chan?" Naruto asked, pulling away and giving the older woman a quizzical look. "Don't worry," Shizen said, nodding towards the boy's lower regions as she pushed off her undergarments, giving Naruto the idea that he was supposed to do the same. "I've got some experience in this stuff." When both were completely nude, Shizen was lying down on Naruto's bed, while he sat back on his haunches at her feet. "You do?" Naruto asked, taking in the magnificent beauty that was her fully nude form. Shizen giggled. "Well, it's good to know you like what you see," she chuckled, causing Naruto to immediately cover his manhood, blushing profusely. "Oh, don't be embarrassed, I've seen worse from men twice your age." Naruto's eyes widened slightly, and he slowly let his arms fall to his sides. "Why, you have?" She nodded in response to his question, motioning for him to come closer. "Shizen-chan?" he asked as he held himself suspended over her. "Okay now, nice and slow your first time, any?" she asked, guiding him down with her gentle touch. When she finally pulled him into herself, she added, "Now push, Naruto-kun." As he thrust himself into her, he could have sworn he saw her wince slightly, but he shrugged it off. She couldn't possibly have been a virgin. "Shizen-chan? What now?" The older woman was breathing heavily, and in a husky, eager voice replied, "In and out, Naruto-kun, in and out." Niji swallowed hard as he approached the door leading to the bedroom of his future wife. He'd waited until nearly sunset to speak with her because honestly, he couldn't work up the nerve to do so earlier. There was no founding for his uncharacteristic lack of confidence and arrogance when it came to asking Hitomori to go out with him. He'd even picked the perfect thing to do that day, a walk through the park, followed by watching the sunset on a hill that his team often trained near. And thus the entire reason he needed to ask her to go now was to make it to the hill before the sun had set. He knew there was no reason to be nervous. A. She was not only engaged, but 12, he wouldn't be walking in on anything like an affair when he knocked on the door. B. This was the woman he was going to spend the rest of his life with whether he wanted to or not. Nothing he said or did around her would change that. C. He was scared of her. One false move and she could try anything. Then again, no matter how much she seemed to remind him of cold, heartless Hanabi, she was branch house just like him, so she couldn't possibly use his cursed seal. D. He didn't care what she thought about him. He's never liked her, really, he never has. Right? It all made perfect sense. He simply couldn't figure out how just yet. He took a deep breath and knocked on the wall next to the sliding rice paper door that led to her room. Much like his and all other branch family bedrooms, they weren't given as much right to privacy as main branch, nor did they have the safety of a wooden door. He could simply rip his way into her room if he wanted. After a moment, she slid the door open and stared him coldly in the eyes. "What do you want?" she asked as she folded her arms over her chest. He had to admit, for all her personality flaws, her physique was flawless. In her slightly baggy branch family-made robes, her figure was hidden perfectly, although you could tell it was just barely so. Her eyes were fierce and determined, much like his own, and a slightly lighter shade of lavender than was normal for the Byakugan. He only knew of 3 people that had noticed this about her eyes: himself and her parents. Her cheeks were slender and her mouth was slight and cute, especially with the small amount of lipstick she usually wore. Her blue-black hair was always tied back in a neat ponytail that grew ragged near where it ended midway down her back, giving her an almost feral quality while also showing her ear piercings to the world, 2 in her left ear and 1 in her right. The first pair of piercings were ordinary enough, simple dark blue crystal studs in each ear. Niji had always admired that she'd been defiant enough to get a second piercing in her left ear just above the first, which always held a thin silver ring. When he saw all of this, he realized just how little he knew about her. Bowing slightly, he answered, "Hitomori-chan, I would like to request your acquaintance this evening." He mentally slapped himself for that too formal. He smirked as he thought of the most informal person he knew. What the hell? He chuckled in his mind. Rising from his bow, he reached his right arm back to scratch his neck as he'd seen the goofy blonde do countless times, and glanced over her shoulder and into her room. What he saw made him smirk. "Would you go out with me?" he asked casually. He barely caught the smirk on her lips before she hid it under a scowl. "We're going to be married to one another. A date seems like a pointless and unorthodox waste of time, wouldn't you agree?" Niji gave the most sincere smile he could, which wasn't much more than a smirk, and said, A friend of mine once taught me that you can't always go by tradition alone if you want to live life for yourself. She smiled warmly at his reply. Just what I wanted to hear. Wait there for a moment, while I change into something more appropriate for an outing, she said, sliding the door shut behind her. Niji simply sighed as he leaned his back against the wall and let himself slide into a slouch, chuckling merrily. Hidamori undid her robes, taking them off in a single motion before scooping up her yukata and glancing around her room. Everything just seemed brighter. She had her futon, her closet, the window with the small potted flowers, and the picture of her parents on the wall along with her desk and chair. As she slid her clothing over her lithe frame, she glanced down at her desk. More importantly, the framed photograph of her husband-to-be that she kept there. She smiled once more before tying off her sash and sliding the door open. Let's go, then she chimed. Any idea what we're actually going to do? As Niji stood, he answered simply, talk and watch the setting sun together like a couple should. She smiled broadly and took his arm. I see there's hope for you yet, husband. Niji was surprised how many items of common interest he could find between himself and his cousin. Both he and Hidamori despised pointless chatter, had similar interests in food, and felt very strongly about the oppression of the Branch family. What surprised Niji, however, was that despite having gone over the basic Juken forms, she had otherwise received next to no ninja training whatsoever, her entire worth to the clan having simply been her position as a maid. At this, Niji decided he would find a way to get her out of cleaning duty for a while, probably by asking Hinata, so that Hidamori could train with Team Guy, to which she heartily agreed. One thing Niji found slightly unsettling were all the odd looks Hidamori was receiving because of her caged bird seal. She explained it as a simple matter of not having anything to cover it with, which he responded to by buying her a fine linen headband, deep navy blue to blend into her hair. You know, you really didn't need to buy me anything, she muttered as they made their way up the hill. You were more uncomfortable than I was with all the looks, so yes, I had to. He thought for a moment. I wanted to. She nuzzled further into his arm, leaning against him as she walked. We're here, right? Yeah, Niji replied, sitting down on the grass as the sun began to dip over the horizon. It's pretty, Hidamori muttered, following him onto the grass and wrapping her arms around him. He in turn placed an arm around her waist and pulled her as close to him as he could. Once the sun had set, and the colors on the clouds began to fade, Niji yawned and leaned back into the grass. Hidamori, however, turned and laid herself down atop him, snuggling into his chest for warmth as night began to set in. You know, she started, glancing up at his face to see his reactions. I don't think I'll mind being stuck with you for the rest of my life. Niji chuckled in response. I don't think I'll mind either. Just remember to take me out on lots of dates before we're married. I will, Niji said. After a few moments staring at the stars, he decided it would be best to head home for the night. Hidamori-chan? Looking down, he saw the girl in question sound asleep. Oh well, at least she's warm, he thought, wrapping his arms around her to try and keep her warm before drifting off to sleep himself. After several hours, Shizen was thoroughly exhausted. Naruto-kun, she panted. I'm tired. Naruto had been resting at the moment as well, and pulled himself up for a moment to look down at her. All okay, he said, lowering himself back onto her and nuzzling into her chest. We can go ahead and sleep for a while. For a while Shizen mused before she drifted off to sleep with her young lover safely nestled in her arms. Niji awoke at dawn, dew completely covering both him and the girl he was still laying under. Hidamori-chan? Wake up, he muttered, jostling her slightly to rouse her from her slumber. And Niji? She asked as she pushed herself off of him, hanging over the boy with a broad grin as she looked into his eyes. You know, she added, dipping herself down and pecking her lips to his. That was our first night together. Niji's cheeks tinged pink as he pulled himself out from under her. Yes, it was, he replied. Last night was fun, she muttered. I don't mind if you want to sleep with me again. Before he could get any ideas, she quickly added, just as long as you know I'm not letting anything intimate happen until we're married. Niji chuckled. Fair enough. When the pair had finally returned home from their night in the training grounds, they decided it'd be best to clean up a bit before trying to talk Hinata or Hayashi into letting Hidamori have the day off. Unfortunately, nothing seemed to be going as planned these days, and Niji and Ai-san? Niji spun on his heel to face his eldest cousin. Hinata-sama. I wasn't expecting to see you here. Even Hinata could tell there was something wrong with this. Wait a second, ruffled hair, a bit sweaty, disheveled clothes, they're even a little muddy and have grass stains. Ayo, Kami, you too, Hinata mumbled, causing the pair to glance at each other in confusion. You slept with her? Niji and Hidamori both blushed at Hinata's outburst. Niji was about to deny everything before Hitomori spoke up. So what if we did? Hinata flushed red, twiddling her fingers in embarrassment. Aye. Out with it, girl, Hitomori blurted. Apparently, she wasn't used to talking to main branch Hyuga. I need advice, Hinata snapped. The pair she was addressing felt their cheeks faintly redden. I need help. Why with that, she mumbled, poking her fingers together and hoping they understood. Niji's cheeks grew crimson. Hinata-sama, you shouldn't be thinking about that at your age. When Hinata gave him a confused glance, he sighed. I'm sure Naruto-sama is a wonderful boyfriend, but you cannot let yourself be dragged into situations that you feel uncomfortable with. Choose the pace your relationship progresses yourself. If Naruto-sama doesn't like it, then I will be forced to reassess my opinion of him. Yes, Niji and Hinata replied with a curt bow before scurrying away. So let the girl decide, eh? Hitomori chimed. Why yes? Niji responded. That is how things are done, right? Not always. She started walking back toward her room. But I guess you can have a little fun for thinking so, Hitomori sang seductively as she rounded a corner in the halls. Niji blushed a deep crimson as he skittered along after her. Naruto yawned and stretched as the sun bled through the window. He immediately wondered why his bed was quite a bit softer than usual, finding a naked woman under him. Shizu any? Oh right, he remembered the happenings of the night prior, letting out an oddly lecherous giggle as he reached out with both hands and began massaging her chest. Oh Shizuyan-chan, he cooed. The older woman moaned in her sleep before seemingly realizing what was going on and shooting up, nearly knocking the blonde to the floor. And Naruto-kun. So we really. You were my first, Shizen-chan, Naruto said solemnly. That means a lot to me, and well, thank you. Why you, Shizen muttered, catching his attention. You were my first, too, Naruto-kun. Why, you really were a virgin, he cried. I thought maybe when you acted a bit weird at first, but. Shizen put 2 fingers to his mouth, silencing him. Do you remember what you promised me when we woke up? Naruto gave off a lecherous grin. Okay, Shizen-chan, he muttered before reinserting himself into her. Hinata let out a dejected sigh as she walked aimlessly through the halls of the Hyuga compound. She seemed vaguely familiar with the place she was at, but in her state, couldn't tell north or west from down or up. Thus her surprise when she found herself dragged into a room off to the side. Nei-san, Hanabi muttered. Hinata found herself in Hanabi's room. So that's why it seemed like a familiar hallway. What is it, Hanabi-chan? I am going to be sleeping with the same man as you, Hanabi said suddenly, both sisters flushing at the words. It was meant as a question, but said like a statement. Why yes you are, Hinata answered. She'd thought about it quite a bit since she'd heard, and now she knew her sister had as well. It was rather unsettling to know that the man you intended to let inside you would probably spend just as much of his time in your sister. This is going to be an awkward marriage, isn't it, sister? Hanabi asked, looking down at her hands. Yes, if we let it, Hinata answered. Hanabi looked confused for a moment before Hinata continued, both sitting down on Hanabi's futon to make talking at least a little easier. If we get used to the idea and comfortable with each other, then you and I should be able to live like most other married women. See comfortable, Nei-san? Hanabi asked. At her sister's nod, the younger girl began inching towards a confused Hinata until their lips met in a chaste kiss. For some reason, Hinata couldn't bring herself to move before Hanabi kissed her, but afterwards she sputtered backwards in utter confusion. Hanabi-chan. What are you doing? Hanabi muttered, looking thoroughly trounced. I just thought that maybe we'd be more comfortable. Tears began to form in her eyes, and she started to sniffle. Hanabi-chan, do you like me? Hinata asked, returning to a more natural sitting position. Hanabi nodded slowly, trying to think of something to say. I am the stronger sister, Nei-chan. She reached out and took Hinata's hand as she looked up at her with tear-filled eyes that shone with an abundance of joy and love. Why shouldn't I want to protect my Wani-chan? Hinata sighed and smiled. She knew it'd be hard, but she had to say it. Hanabi-chan, I love you, but you're my sister, nothing more. Hanabi smiled as well, letting her tears flow freely down her cheeks. I like Naruto-kun, too. Hinata's eyes widened slightly. You like him more, though? She leaned forward and locked her sad eyes on her sister's. I was wondering if you wanted to practice for Naruto-kun. Hinata smiled, nodding. What could it hurt? Leaning closer to Hanabi, she outstretched her arms until they met in a soft, sisterly embrace, their lips pressed together in an innocent kiss. Naruto and Shizen were taking another break, simply cuddling until Shizen said she was ready again, before she shot up as far as she could with Naruto's weight on her chest. Naruto-kun, don't you have a meeting with Tsunade-sama today? Oh shit! Naruto yelled, jumping out of bed and pulling on his boxers before dashing out of the room. Shizen followed close behind, wrapping herself in Naruto's bed sheets. Oh hi Taya-chan. Truth be told, Tayuya looked surprisingly like another redhead Naruto knew. She obviously hadn't slept since yesterday. Tayuya-san, Shizen said, bowing half out of respect, but more to try and hide the fact that her face was beet red for having anyone but Naruto see her in her current state. I was up all fucking night. Tayuya muttered. You two were so fucking loud I had to fend off 3 fucking pricks that came to tell you to quiet the fuck down. One was the fucking landlord. Naruto's eyes shot wide. But it's just me and the crazy cat lady living here. Then they were from other buildings. Tayuya snapped. Anyway, it's like 1 in the afternoon. You're late already. Fuck! Naruto screamed, clambering around trying to get himself ready to leave. So that means, Tayuya yelled, catching his attention, that you can take your time. You're already late. What's an extra goddamned hour for a fucking shower and breakfast, huh? Tayuya got up off her seat on the couch, letting the blanket she'd been curled up in slide down onto the floor as she stumbled over to the boy and took a long drag of air when she propped herself up against him, fearing for her balance if she had to stand still on her own. Besides, you smell like you just fucked every girl in a brothel. Shizen blushed, backing away slowly. I'll just. You're going to help clean him up. Tayuya muttered angrily. You go in there, shower with him, and clean him the fuck up because I know he'd probably rush and do fucking half-assed job at best if we let him go alone. What about you? Shizen asked as Naruto started off towards the bathroom to start the water. I'm going to make the fucking breakfast that we're going to eat when you two get out of the fucking shower. She responded, picking up her heavily caffeine-laden tea from the table and downing what remained. When Shizen turned to join Naruto, however, she was stopped when Tayuya spoke again. So was he good? Shizen turned back to the girl and smiled. Would I have been that loud if he wasn't? Tayuya chuckled, shaking her head as the two went their separate ways. About an hour later, Naruto and Shizen came out of the bathroom, each wrapped in a towel as they made their way to gather up clothes for the day. Shizen wore what she arrived in, as it was still rather clean, and Naruto put on a fresh set of everything. What the fuck took you two so long? You guys fuck in the shower too? Tayuya asked, and at their simultaneous blush, groaned. You did, didn't you? They both nodded. Sorry, Tai-chan, Naruto muttered as he made his way to the table, Shizen following behind him. Don't worry about it, IDV fucked you too if we showered together. Tayuya always found it fun to make the blonde boy blush. After their breakfast of bacon, toast and ramen, Naruto and Shizen made their way to the Hokage Tower. Tayuya stayed behind, passing out as soon as she got to the bed. She honestly didn't care if it still had a giant wet spot. When they finally arrived, they were surprised to find Tenten in the office alongside Tsunade. Do you two have any idea how late you are? Tsunade bellowed. Sorry, Tsunade-bachan, we got a little sidetracked, Naruto muttered, rubbing his neck in embarrassment. Tsunade waved him off, smiling. So, Shizen-chan, was he good? Why does everyone keep asking me that? Shizen snapped, her face now a vibrant crimson. Wait, Tenten muttered. So, she's the one, Naruto? Yes. Tsunade replied. Shizen, you're fairly certain it'll take, aren't you? We'll know in a few days, Tsunade-sama, Shizen mumbled. I use those jutsu. What are you talking about? Naruto asked. Medical ninjutsu used to increase the chance of pregnancy. I won't bore you with details. Tsunade answered. I might need to learn those too, Tenten muttered under her breath. Don't worry, me or Shizen can use them on you, if you decide you want us to. Tsunade muttered to the girl before turning back to Naruto. Now, there's something Tenten-chan here wants to ask you, Naruto-kun. Naruto nodded, more than slightly confused as Tenten walked up to him, bowing as she spoke. Naruto-kun, please take me as your wife. Naruto jumped back a good 5 feet from the girl in shock. What? Why the hell would you want to marry me? Before Tenten could answer, Tsunade spoke up. She has her reasons, Naruto. Now, do you want to marry Tenten or not? Naruto didn't know what to say, so he took Tenten's hand in his own, raising her from her bow. Tenten, do you really want to marry me? Tenten started, glancing down at his hands cupped around hers. I know that, someday, you're going to be a great father, Naruto-kun, probably the best ever. She smiled, having the distance between them as she took a step. I want that for my children. I can't imagine anyone being better for the job than you. Naruto sighed. So, what's that bring the count up to now, Oba-chan? 4. Tayuya, Tenten, Hinata, and Hanabi. The elder woman replied. And you're still not going to tell me what that damned minimum is, are you? You'll find out soon enough, Naruto. Tsunade stood up and walked around her desk. Shizen, Tenten, if you could give us a little privacy? Find Jiraiya and give him this letter BH. Naruto scoffed, going over his mission details once more. After being briefed on his mission and having a little talk with Tsunade about fatherhood, she sent him on his way. As he hopped from one rooftop toward the only major onsen in Konoha, his mind drifted to the latter half of their talk. Hinata. Naruto barely registered that he made it to his destination as he leapt over the walls of the women's bath, landing on the other side of the building next to a perverted old man. Naruto, you're just lucky none of them saw you do that, Jiraiya muttered. Yeah, so? It would have just led them to you anyway. Naruto scowled. Tsunade-bachan told me to give you this now. If you'll excuse me, the blonde boy jumped up once more, this time pushing off the wall Jiraiya was hiding behind, activating his Shinzenbigen as he twisted in midair and sent a barrage of shuriken flying into the supports holding the wall up, causing it to fall inward. If you didn't figure it, it's a wooden wall. Hit the key planks of wood, and it falls over. Naruto must be having a bad day, Jiraiya muttered as he was overrun by angry women. Hyuga Niji was very confused. He didn't like being confused, but in all honesty, the past hours had been little more than a blur to him. All he was certain of was that he was currently in his fiancée's room, laying on her futon while she snuggled herself into his chest. Hitomori-chan? Niji asked. What just happened? The girl gave him a lazy glare laced with agitation. What do you think just happened? Lots of kissing? Niji asked. It's called making out, get used to it, she replied, smirking maliciously. I don't think I'll have any problems with that, Niji mused, glancing at a small clock on her desk that he hadn't seen earlier. We should probably check on Hinata-sama, honestly. She's lost without constant reminders of what she'd planned to do for the day. Niji chuckled. Why is that? Hitomori asked, pushing herself up to get a better look at her soon-to-be husband. Niji smiled up at her. She always loses focus, she just stares into space. Daydreaming, I think. Hitomori leaned down and pecked her lips to Niji's. Sounds like she's in love, wouldn't you agree? Niji thought for a moment. That explains the shriek she let out when she found out she was marrying Naruto-sama. Hitomori nuzzled her cheek into his neck. You know, you're not nearly as heartless as I thought you were, I'm glad. Niji thought back to his conversation with the Hokage. She was right, he chuckled. We really are good for each other. What are you talking about? She asked. Nothing, let's go. Niji couldn't find Hinata anywhere. He'd checked her room, the gardens, the onsen, the kitchen, everywhere. He'd asked Hayashi if he'd seen her, but he's Hayashi, you don't ask such menial things of him. So, he decided to ask Hanabi. Unfortunately, Hitomori got there first. Tossing the door open, she poked her head inside and cheered, Hanabi-sama. You in here? Of course, what they saw was rather shocking. Both sisters were here, in a state that reminded them of themselves not too long ago. Hanabi was lying atop her sister, nestled in her bosom, quite thoroughly asleep. If the sisters hadn't been fully clothed, the implications would have been dire. At present, they were merely disturbing Hinata-sama? What are you doing with Hanabi-sama? Niji asked. And Niji and I was Hinata tried to stutter out, jostling Hanabi awake in the process. Hanabi, blissfully unaware that there were guests in the room, proceeded to pull herself up and press her lips to Hinata's. Hanabi-sama! Niji yelled in shock. The young girl immediately turned toward the door, where she saw two people who just discovered her secret affair with her sister. In all truth, she handled it quite eloquently. Ria. Immediately Hinata clamped her hand over the young girl's mouth, and sent a glare at Niji and Hitomori. Get an H here, she said in her most fearsome voice, the effect completely ruined by her stutter. Niji led the way into the room, followed by Hitomori, who closed the door. Hinata-sama, please explain why you are here with Hanabi-sama, Niji repeated. Could it be that we've stumbled onto a tryst? Hitomori added in an unnervingly cheery tone. Hinata could feel her face heat up as she looked down at her sister, who looked up at her and blinked. Hinata took this as a sign that the younger girl knew to be quiet, and let her hands return to her sides, making certain both her and Hanabi were in a proper sitting position. I don't think tryst is the right word. She glanced at her sister once more. But. Is there something between you and Hanabi-sama? Niji asked sternly. Hanabi immediately latched herself onto her sister's midriff, glaring at the older boy. Hinata, in turn, put an arm around the young girl's shoulders. I don't know, Hinata answered. PP please. Don't tell FF father about this. By the way Hinata was stuttering, he could tell that she was clearly stricken by their arrival. Niji sighed. I see nothing more than two wives of the same man fraternizing with one another. I don't see how parentage would matter here. He mumbled casually. If I had a problem with it, I'd go to Naruto-sama, not Heishi-sama. Taking this as her cue, Hitomori giggled. Don't worry, Hinata-chan, Hanabi-chan will keep your secret. She winked in a slightly flirtatious manner afterwards in order to seem less threatening. Not to mention downright cute. Hinata sighed in relief as Hanabi smiled and nuzzled her shoulder. Thank you be both of you. If the two of you are happy together, then I don't mind at all, Niji shrugged. Although I do advise you lock the door. Then something popped into Hitomori's mind. Oh. Hinata-chan, I was wondering if I could have the rest of the day off. She asked. I wanted to spend it with Niji-kun. I don't see why not. Hinata mumbled. What do you do? Hitomori sighed. I'm a maid. A damned maid, she muttered. I hate cleaning. I see. Can tried to convince father to Hinata started. Don't worry about it, Hitomori said, cutting her off. I've been doing it all my life anyway, and in a few years, I'll get a pretty decent maternity leave. This thought made Niji blush. Really, I know how scary your dad can be. Hinata lowered her head sadly. Don't worry, Niji spoke up. I will talk to Heishi-sama. We've been developing a rapport of sorts. I believe he will listen to me. Hitomori latched herself onto Niji's arm, beaming. You will? For me? She started nuzzling his shoulder. Thank you, Niji-kun. To be honest, Hinata-sama, since I wasn't able to find you anywhere else, I expected you to be at Naruto-sama's home. Niji said. Of course, I would have needed to inquire as to its location. Naruto-kun. Hinata snapped. I forgot. I need to go. Hinata dashed out of the room, leaving Hanabi, Hitomori and Niji in awkward silence. Naruto practically had to drag himself up the stairs to his apartment. He wasn't tired, he wasn't exhausted, he just didn't really want to do much of anything at that point, climbing stairs included. When he finally made it up to his door, he turned the knob and let it swing open, allowing the boy to trudge into the room, locking it behind him. Turning around, his eyes widened as he saw he wasn't alone. Hinata? Gee, good evening, Naruto-kun, she mumbled. I was wondering. Did you hear about the letter? Naruto asked, sitting down beside her on the couch. Hinata nodded. We are to be wed. You don't have to marry me if you don't want to. I can talk to. He was silenced as she put 2 fingers to his lips. Hinata flushed red. This was going to be much harder than she thought. Naruto sighed. If she couldn't talk, then he'd do the talking for her. Do you want me to call off the wedding? She shook her head. You want to marry me? She nodded. You like me? He asked, using the only L word he thought she could mean, eliciting another nod. Hinata took 3 deep breaths, and unzipped her jacket. Standing up to toss it aside, she began fumbling with her pants, until Naruto's hand eclipsed her own. Glancing up, the boy was shaking his head slowly. But. Hinata, did you speak to several men earlier? Men from the village council? Naruto asked, and a stunned Hinata nodded. I was afraid of this. They told you to do this, didn't they? Probably told you it was for the good of your clan too, huh? She nodded. Naruto sighed. Just like Oba-chan said. Tsunade's office, shortly after Tenten and Shizen left. Naruto, your mission is simple. Tsunade stated. You are to take this letter and deliver it to Jiraiya. Before the young blonde's inevitable hissy fit could start, she continued in a tone she used to remind people just who was Hokage. This is because I don't want to track him down myself. Shizen is busy at the hospital, and it contains sensitive information that I can't trust to anyone but you two. Naruto felt his rage subside, just as was Tsunade's intention. He was about to turn, but something in the way she looked at him kept the boy from moving. I hate to ask, but what else did you want to talk to me about? Tsunade looked delightfully surprised. I can't believe you could actually tell that I had something else to say before I had to call you back, she smirked. You're getting better, Naruto. He smirked. What happened to Kun? Tsunade chuckled. How does it feel to be a man, Naruto? What? Naruto snapped, trying to hide his embarrassment within rage. Naruto, as a man, I'm going to be expecting a lot more from you, she said, almost as if she's prepared a speech. The next time you're in my office, I'm going to be giving you harder missions, a share of my paperwork to help prepare you to handle all of it someday. And she paused for dramatic effect, her voice softening significantly as she continued. I'm going to try to show you the same respect I show all of the other men that walk through those doors. Oba-chan? Naruto asked in confusion. How many times have I told you not to call me that? Tsunade growled. It doesn't matter, Naruto muttered. It doesn't matter if I'm a man or not, how old I get, or what rank I am, you'll always be Tsunade-bachan to me. Tsunade sighed. I guess it can't be helped then, Naruto-kun. Hey, what happened to treating me like a man? You don't treat me with the respect you should, so why should I? She countered, smirking. Naruto groaned. You win, Oba-chan, so what is it? I've gotten reports that several of the councilmen are planning a little field trip to the Hyugas. Tsunade stated, in full mission briefing mode. Judging by the information I've received, they're probably planning on trying to convince Hinata-chan to impregnate herself with your child. Naruto jumped back in shock. What? Why the hell would they do that? To try to get their precious Uchiha back, she scoffed. They know that I'd probably be able to keep Hinata from dying due to complications in childbirth, so they see it as an opportunity to get more children that could possess the Sharingan. Naruto was about to ask why that was bad, but sensing the question, she cut him off. If Hinata gave birth at her age, her career as a kunoichi would be over. Naruto's features contorted in shock and rage.